You guys have made a mistake today, calling all of us on a podcast.
It's sometimes not arrogance, but ignorance.
This is the most detailed explanation of barbecue I've ever heard.
Japan's a weird place.
Most people just collapse and fail.
For me, venture building is actually, I look at it as worship as well.
Nobody wants to know you at this point.
Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment.
Be the person who deserves to be backed.
I went to UT Austin, which is the capital of Texas, which is known as like the creme of barbecue. Like all of it was really happening there. So what makes Texas barbecue particularly really special is that in the food industry, when you have the old railroad lines, what Chicago was really good at was essentially doing more so like wet barbecue ribs with being pork. But a lot of the cattle industry was down south. So when the spice trade was happening, at least with the United States, they would go through trains and come down to Texas. And Texas, since they had cattle and not a lot of pigs, they specialized in dry rubs and Texas barbecue. In the coastal side, like South and Northern Carolina, you have more wet barbecue, but it's still more focused on pigs. So as Muslims, Texas is like the place to be. Now, in Austin, my friend and I, McKay, who just got engaged, me and him, we're barbecue addicts. So every week for 3 years, without missing a beat, we went to 2 barbecue spots. Every week. And we have an Excel sheet and we graded them.
No way.
I can share that Excel sheet happily.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes. And so what ended up becoming from our analysis, this is before ChatGPT, I mind you, right?
A weighted average.
Yeah, exactly. Weighted average. There's like this period of like echelon of good barbecue where brisket is like, it just doesn't get better at a certain point. Everyone kind of masters it.
The marginal gains are
exactly.
minimal,
It's like going from like your phone camera to like a $6,000 DSLR. Like the average person is like, they can tell a difference, but it's not like $5,000 more, right? So briskets, that kind of what ends up happening. Then the other highlight happens to be the sides, right? Like you have like the main, the pianist, you have the violin, but it's like the side part of the orchestra that you really makes the difference, at least in your mouth with the flavors, right? So that's where people got sloppy.
What we're talking about sides, we're talking about mash, we're talking about
mashed potatoes, baked beans, coleslaw, corn on the cob, right? The sausage, all these other things. And so that's where I was like, this is really where the difference happens for me. So with Yerby's, where I get into, his wife, Sabrina, Allah Mubarak, her sides, slam dunk. Collard greens, incredible. Mashed potatoes, incredible. Sweet corn, potato. Corn. We'll cue that in.
Is that the viral thing? Like there's African American lady. She's like, I think she's in the canteen.
Yeah.
She just makes a song out of it. Like, what do you like on the sides?
Yeah.
It became like a whole kind of.
That's looking really good. You get the kind of notes right.
The high notes is what
You're invited to the cookout.
I'm accepted, man.
Yeah. So like that's kind of what makes Yerby's really, really good for me. It's that yes, their brisket, phenomenal. Their dino ribs, incredible. But their sides, you will not be left disappointed. And so when you go there, you get the whole field. Like you get everything there.
The full experience.
Not missing a beat. Yeah. So. And I always the other rule that we found out is that if you're not having to drive for your barbecue, it's not going to be good barbecue. And I will die on that hill.
Wow.
Okay.
So like,
but when you say drive,
we're talking Howard and Kumar.
Yeah. More or less. Just less of the haram scene. You guys are all married, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm the odd one out. So pretty much a drive here in the Texas Standard. The longest I've driven for barbecue was about 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So Snow's Barbecue. She was actually on Chef's Table. And she is like this, I guess now she's almost 80 years old. Wow. She's this very like Southern woman. She actually coaches the football team. And, and football, like the American football, right? It's I mean, gosh, it's literally God, guns, and football and barbecue. Like I think that's like in that mix. Family's in there. Family's in there somewhere.
So very close to barbecue. But
yeah. So that's kind of
there's no family without a barbecue, right?
Exactly.
Right. Who's gonna eat? I guess me. To be fair, I still do. But no, Snow's Barbecue. What she does, she's so good. She walks around. She coaches the football team, right? She walks around, right, and she has a slight limp, and she has literally a mop that is what she's using to slather the barbecue with. She opens up the pit, slathers it, and these pits are huge, like they weigh tons. And she, some people look at the temperature gauge, right? Like me, as I like to think of myself as a man, right? I'm like, oh yeah, it's 300 degrees. I should not touch that because that's obnoxious for me to touch that.
Yep.
This woman casually walks up. Wow. If this is the gas grill, she'll touch it. She's like, yeah, that's about right. And then moves on with her day. I'm like, you just touched the doors of Jahannam. What do you mean? It's so hot.
This is cross-cultural though, man. You know what? It's like the heat-proof aunties with the heat-proof hands, man. It's like they should be on the X-Men. You know what I'm saying?
Something in the genetic coding just changes that we don't have. But like, there's plenty of like men like barbecue pit masters, right? But oh my goodness, she's one of the few. I think she's the only woman pit master that's considered like top 10 consistently.
She's trained differently, bro. It's like I used to do martial arts, and I thought, okay, I've got decent kind of legs and something. But the Muay Thai guys, what they do is they bang their shins against kind of tree trunks and stuff in order to build it. I'm thinking like this auntie, she must have just banged her hand, slapped her hand so many times. It's just metal. It's just metal.
This is the most detailed explanation of barbecue I've ever heard. And I did not know that there are titles like pit master. Right? I was saying to my son the other day, I said like, maybe we should learn how to make barbecue. Like, we should be a bit better at it, right? Like, if a lot of people came around, would we, as father and son team, be able to handle a lot of guests, right?
Not Texans.
You guys are just like you just ruined our plans completely. Like I now have to send my son to Texas for like what's it called, like a year.
I know a guy.
You are the guy.
Well, Hamza's barbecue is phenomenal, and I don't mean that like I criticize my friend's food in a constructive way all the time. And so he invited us to come have dinner at his place for barbecue. I was like, oh, like what are you using to grill with? And he like tells me,
kind of half doubted me.
I did.
We're very skeptical. We're very skeptical with our food, like, especially like the ones that are I would say like. People say they know how to make a steak. People say they know how to make wings, or they say they know how to make brisket. But these are hard. Like if you do it really well, it's like an art to it. So,
and I would say like my penalty, and I kind of did this to myself. My issue is like if there's like a hobby or something I want to go into, I like find the best person within my network that does it.
Nice.
So case in point, sushi. So during COVID, I really wanted to get into making sushi because I was spending way too much on sushi every week because it was my way of coping with everything. And so I was like, I just got to learn how to make this stuff at home. So I watched YouTube videos. I'm like, okay, cool. This is cute. And then I remember going to get an omakase one day, and I sat by this chef that I love a lot, Jimmy Park. He runs Shoyo, but he was the first Korean chef for Nobu. I guess you guys remember Nobu, right?
Yeah,
so he's the first Korean chef for Nobu, which is a big deal. Yeah. I sat by his wife. Now, mind you, I am like a fanboy for Chef Jimmy Park. So I'm like, this is my in. I'm sitting right by his wife and his daughter. So, of course, I'm like with my friends, like, hey, respectfully, I'm not going to talk to you for the rest of the night. I'm going to talk to them and try to win my way in. And I just become great friends with them and then his daughter. To the point, Jimmy was like, hey, are you hitting on my wife? I'm like, no. I just want free to give you. And then once the shop closed, I ended up becoming like, they were like, oh, let's get dinner. And we ended up getting dinner the next weekend. And so when COVID was happening now, I was like, oh, let me hit him up and see if I can work under him. And I'd finish my day job 9 to 5 at IBM, and then from 6 to midnight, I go work as a stagiaire with under Chef Jimmy Park. Oh, wow. Nice. And his co-chef is actually Shin-san, and Shin-san was actually the corporate executive head chef for all of Nobu.
Wow!
Which means that if you're working as a chef with Nobu, you have to go through this guy to get there. And so I was like, this could not get better. So of course I was like washing dishes too, because I'm still like the bottom of the tier. But on the side, he like put me on, okay, this is how we make it, this is how you do it, this is what you're looking for. I'm no expert, but I'm like, at least I can claim I'm better than like a YouTube.
This is dedication to your craft, right? Interesting to see. I've not heard it from that kind of food perspective. To do your day job at IBM and then go and do that in the evening. The passion obviously is clear to see, right? But what's your motivation here? How do you go to that level?
Exactly.
I think it's, I mean, I'm sure you guys can resonate with this because I kind of want to spin the question back to you almost, right? Like, I think when you're just curious about something, whether it be a business venture or anything, you're just really just trying to learn how people do it right now before you can even innovate or create on it, right? And I think it's like a lot of the lessons that y'all go through in your business endeavors and things like that. You're like, okay, yeah, this is a problem. I wonder how everyone else is currently solving it, and then trying to find the actual best solution. Or maybe it's a culmination of a lot of the other solutions, right? And I think when you go into like fusion food, that's kind of when you start seeing different places like, oh, this is how, like, for example, when I grew up, you know, I'm Bengali. And so we would always get pudding, right? And it's like, I think like Pakistanis also have like pudding. But like when I started learning Spanish, they're like, oh, like you're learning food items. And they're like, I'm like, why are they calling pudding flan? What is flan, you know? And like, oh, they make it the exact same way, but two different parts of the world that weren't trading at the time came up with the same creation. And for me, that was like, that's really neat. And I think with food, like, yes, I went into this hobby with that mindset, but I think businesses or anything, it's just what mindset you have. The philosophy is the same, but the actions of what you're doing is different. Does that make sense?
Really interesting quote, I think, from a Japanese samurai, right? I don't know how many people he beat, you know, in duel. But
probably Musashi.
Musashi, probably, I think so, because it's the way of the five rings. Yeah.
Japan experts.
Japan. I'll let my Japanese expert take it from here.
Have you played the new Assassin's Creed?
I haven't played the new one yet. No, I've got a weird relationship with Ubisoft. Love and hate.
Okay.
Yeah, but the quote was something to the effect of when you see the path in one area, you see it in everything. And it's a wonderful thing. You look at the likes of Richard Branson. I know he's a controversial person with privatization of the NHS and stuff aside. When he's got that success formula blueprint in a particular sector, you know, there's a lot of transferable skills, know-how, grit, tenacity, various underlying characteristics, what we call meta skills that you can apply in other things as well. So that's why Zhagum's question was a pertinent one. It's like, what is your why? What is that kind of thing that allows you to carry on outside of a 9 to 5 to 3 or not 3 or 5 to 9?
But to add to that, like the passion, right, obviously really comes across, and that's beautiful to see, right? When we look at founders, there are only some that are this passionate about a problem. When we say problem, it doesn't like literally like what's your problem? Like you really like steak. Like it's not, you know, it's not a problem, right? But you're passionate about a topic.
Right.
You're the guy. You know yours. I now know if I ever want to know anything about barbecue, right, or food, right, I'm calling you, right? Like, you know, literally, like, listen, like this is, you know, because you studied it. You've become a student of knowledge in that area, right? Now, who do people want to invest in? Who do they want to work with? Who would you want on your team? You want the person who's that passionate about, I don't know, AI. It could be whatever it is, right? It's that level of like, and we try to call it things. We call it ihsan, right? For us, because we say, look, ihsan is that like you really go to the level on these things, right? You've done that, and you just a masterclass just unfolded just now, right? Great example, right? For I think every founder, right? Is that's how passionate you need to be about a topic to be the person who deserves to be backed. And I don't mean financially backed. I mean even backed in a brotherly way. When you turn around and say, okay, guys, you know, I'm going to build something in this space. Like, I don't think there's anyone sitting here or I think listening, right, will be like, no, he's not the guy, right? It's literally you're the guy, right? Because you're like, that's the person, that level of passion, I think needs to come across.
I think, so Justin, you're about to say something. There's one thing I want to pick out from your story as well is when you mentioned it's almost like you got experts, you know, that you go to, your go-to person for a particular thing. You said, I'm going to call up that person. And that's exactly what, you know, I want to, building on Zhagum's point is, individuals that have expertise, we go to them, and alhamdulillah, like within our community, we've got individuals that are experts, like mashallah, you know, and that's why I'll go to Jaasir for anything UI, UX related, design related. We've got brother Shabir, who's not with us, who's essentially a product expert, and mashallah, Zhagum wears many hats, but essentially I see him as our the archetypal hustler who's able to steer us as well and kind of like push us through, and I'm on the journey, man. I'm on the journey essentially, man. So in essence, that specificity of you know, we call it a T-shaped individual, right? You've got enough knowledge to make you dangerous, right? You're able to converse, like you've got enough, what we call, just talking a little bit about technicalities here, right? Let's say you're a founder, you want to develop an app. Know enough to be able to communicate with the people that are doing the back end, all the kind of the coding stuff, and those that are doing the design stuff, but you don't necessarily need to know everything, right? That's what we love to see. Not only people that are experts, but also what we call T-shaped, so they've got enough broad of basic information to be able to play in the game.
To add to that as well, is that once you have that overall knowledge, that's when you start respecting other work, and then that's when you become self-aware that you need a specialist or you need specific help. It's sometimes not arrogance, but ignorance, right? A lot of people, until they put themselves out there, don't actually know they need help in specific areas until they start needing help. It's a weird thing to say, but sometimes, I mean, my background is like branding and UI UX, been doing it for 10 years. When I initially started, probably that first, second year, like you go around, you're like, there's so many people I can help with branding, right? That person's logo can improve, especially brick and mortar shops when you're going past the high street, right? And it's an old uncle and he's been running a shop for maybe like 15, 20 years and he's got the same logo, a news agency or something that's been going on for years. And you're like, I can come in and help you, uncle. Do you want to update this and update that? And they're like, not really, no. I was like, but it might help you get more business. I got this far. But but then when things start to change and like things shift, that's when everyone's like, oh, we panic and we don't prepare. We like we didn't think we needed it. COVID was a good example because just before that, me and my business partner, we were like, oh, it'll be really cool to do QR codes for like menus and other things, and we can do NFC stickers and all this other really cool stuff. And then it didn't really take off. And then during COVID, everyone jumped on that. And it was just timing things. Those that adjusted that really early, they were already well equipped and they could actually have things in place. But going back to all your points, because this has been such good conversation, I think what you were touching on, Mohammed, was the underlying effect is principle. Right? The principles, if you're a CEO or if you've done something already successfully.
We got Ray Dalio.
That's a great book, by the way. I feel like I reread that book almost every year.
I think a lot of us do.
Evergreen.
So but it is really just that. It's principles, right? Once you've got that principle and that framework, it's just reapplying it. The hard part is getting the passion. It's being 5 years old again, being absolutely obsessed with the world and wanting to learn everything. Going back to your Japan point.
There we go.
I'm locked in for this.
So if you like Japanese culture, etc., like especially in the anime side, they call some people otaku.
You got my whole attention.
So you've heard otaku, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually not just applied to like people that like anime. So you can have a densha otaku, which basically means train otaku. And that's someone who just loves trains. And it's literally, it's obsession to the point where you become an expert. That's the word what otaku is. It's like this. If you want to know about trains, you speak to that guy because he's got a train collection. He can see a picture and he'll tell you the train model. He'll tell you the route. He'll tell you who manufactured it. He'll tell you every single part number in that train and how to fix it. That's the level of like obsession they become. And you can be like a sushi otaku. You could be like they use that phrase everywhere.
We have one here.
Right? Yeah. But it's like that form of that they are an expert. It's the connotation of it's being changed. Obviously, as cultures evolved. But the real principle of that word is someone who's just an expert.
What about the journey to becoming an expert? Do they have like classification?
So Japan's a weird place, right? For anyone that's been, anyone that wants to go, it's a whole different world. You find but the thing I was so impressed about, and my wife, she loves like creative stuff and art and etc. And I took her to Tokyu Hands. It's like a 8-story shop. You can find it in Shibuya, Shinjuku, and it's just a place for people that have hobbies. Like you can go there and you can buy leather. But for people that want to make their own own belts, own like bookcases, covers, they have like canvases from all sizes, any type of hobby you can think of, they have stuff available for that. And that's the one thing about Japan I found extremely interesting is that people, when they find something they love and enjoy, they become masters at it. And especially like desserts and etc. Right? As students, they'll probably go to France. They will then learn about different type of dolce. Oh, not dolce. That's Italy. Sorry, but like different.
Too many cultures coming in.
Too many cultures. Sorry.
He's a well-traveled guy, man. Mashallah.
Yeah, but they'll go to like they become like patisserie chefs and like become like experts at it. They'll come back to Japan and they open this really tiny shop in Japan, in Tokyo somewhere, or like in the outskirts. And then you go to this place and there's probably like 2-3 quid for this like nice sized cake slice. That'll be some of the best dessert you'll ever have, because they just master it and come back and open up their own place. And that's the beauty about that place. You can find people that are experts in their own fields.
Another question, actually, just a quick one is, there's no obsession in terms of this idea of blitzscaling, we're calling it, expansion, all that. We've got individuals, like you've mentioned, who will spend their entire life and they're happy. Yeah. Right? Because what there's an argument to be made. So there's in design we call it the trifecta of feasibility, viability, and there's a third one, right? Which I keep forgetting. But there's an argument to be made of a fourth circle, and that is an ikigai circle, or a circle whereby the designer themselves love what they're doing. We don't talk about this. We talk in this capitalistic kind of ism and schisms driven world. All we're talking about is revenue. We're talking about blitzscaling. That should be balanced and tempered with the idea of loving what you do. And I remember Zhagum when he we got together this coalition of the willing. I think one of the things that you said a few times, and we all understood this and believed in it wholeheartedly, was we're only doing this because we love this. We absolutely will do this, even if we're not going to be what we call it, massively revenue generating, whatever it is. We're doing it for the love of it, and that's what I think is very, very key.
But look, people combine that, right, with Islamic principles. And Peter Gould was like one of the people for me that really stood out. Like, we're going to his book launch literally next, right? and he combined this with, he called it spirituality of design, right? So he's brought that in, right, and said, okay, look, why am I doing this thing? So any project we start from our intentions. Why do I want to do this thing, right? And that's really good to see it on paper. You literally list it and think, okay, my reasons for this, and then you think about the outcomes that you would like to see. And it could be something simple, like we were setting up academies in Pakistan, and the aim, the outcome was like, we help one person. One person lives from the knowledge they gained and support their family, one, right? But our targets are something else, like can be thousands, can be millions, right? But one is like that would tell me that I succeeded. Intentions for doing it. I want Allah to be pleased with me that He just literally saw that, like, I set out to do this, but I took one step and fell down, but like I got the reward of the entire journey. And Peter's really opened our eyes up into this approach by calling it a canvas, right? And he's like, look, these are the things you look at. The last thing you look at is, how do you sustain this project? Which we would normally have started with, how does it make money? But it's the last bit. It's like, okay, well, obviously it's got to sustain, right? So that shop has got to sustain. It's got to charge. You can't just give the food out for free.
Exactly, yeah.
But then the it's almost spiritual what that person is doing, but they've understood it maybe they've understood Ihsan how maybe we fail to understand it.
It's a balance, right? Like, I think what we go towards is two extremes. We either go and do everything for free, or we go super capitalist.
Free sabilillah.
So it's getting that midpoint, right? And I think as Muslims, we feel like it could be two. Because, and it's also because of us, like, things that we've been taught society. Like, a lot of us come from first generation, second generation. Like, it was kind of survival mode, right? Like, you want to succeed, you want to be successful. But I feel like we've also gotten to a point where we're kind of refinding our roots and understanding, actually, there's different ways to do this than what we've been taught. Do I need to make 100x, or can I make 15x, right? What's sustainable? What do I actually want? The spirituality and kind of like the actual underlying intention, I think, is most important. But you should have a good business model on top. I mean, I met a brother, I think a couple of days ago, and he had a really interesting business helping, if any PR companies, for example, say anything, if there's any bias that's mentioned in that article, his application will find it, and it will tell you where the bias is, wrong with the language, etc.
Is this News Corp?
Yeah, I think it is.
Big up Nima every single time.
Nima. Yeah, we actually talked to him a couple days ago.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So yeah, we got to deep dive into how his project is.
Beautiful, man. Mashallah.
So it's a brilliant project. So, but his thing is he's not monetizing it yet, right? It's free, and I said, well, why aren't you monetizing it? Because he said, well, I'm not doing it to monetize. But I said, look, he feels bad was his answer actually. And I said, you shouldn't feel bad because this is above you, right? If you can't afford to do this, if you are if this becomes a burden to you, this is going to disappear. Then who's going to do it, right? It's going to be bad for everyone.
Make it sustainable.
Make it sustainable. I said you don't have to make killer profit off it, but you have to cover your base cost. So if not you, someone else can come in and support you. But you've got to find a way to be able to make it sustainable.
That's
right?
the thing, man. How many of us, how many founders out there have actually done that base cost kind of calculation, understand what is break even for them, understand what are the bills and the contingency. That kind of we've got a venture builder and on the back of kind of what we're doing as well, and that's some of the basic stuff we do, man. And people are like, wait a second. Rainy day fund, what is that? Right? It's kind of because like Jaasir was saying, I think I couldn't put it better. Like we come from a survival background. We're just firefighting. We're working in what we call over here corner shops, that kind of background essentially. And that mentality has to shift towards thriving, towards inshallah ta'ala ihsan. And that's what inshallah talk about.
Well, I was gonna say, like, do you think that there is like in the early days of a startup, right, or as a founder, I think that survival aspect is like very interesting. Like I think it's actually very useful to lean on those things to be quite honest. Like we talked a lot about like philosophy and framework, and to me it's like if you're one, making sure your intention is correct, number two, making sure that you're taking as best of an approach to validate the problems that are there at the lowest cost possible, then that's like what I consider back against the wall, right? And like that's what Nima has done. I think like we were talking about his project, like I think he's done a great job.
He's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, he's done an amazing job to like to at least get it to a point where, hey, we've got some tractions. But we told him the almost exact same thing you told him. It's like, hey, you have to make this sustainable. Like if some other organization is going to come pay $50 million or $100 million for your product just because of the impact, but you're not making any money off of it, then there's something wrong in the business model there that needs to be figured out.
And that is the framework, though. You're 100% right. That's founder need or that entrepreneur need when they don't have any funding, they're bootstrapping everything. That's kind of the mentality you need, but you need to have a strategy in place. You have to have a framework of once you've built out a concept, an MVP, and you get traction, and where do you go from there? I feel like what people do is they push out a product and then they pray, right? And
we all do that.
It happens. But and this is where Ihsan, I think, this is one of the reasons we kind of all came together, is because we see a lot of startups come, a lot of tech startups and some amazing people and really good projects. But then after 8-9 months, they just fall off. And we were like, well, why is this happening? Right? Like there's no feedback loop. Is it they're not getting the support that they need? Is it that they're like, what are they struggling with? And a lot of the times I think we don't have that place to get that information in the first place, right? There is no feedback loop. And we kind of came together because we have the experience working with startups. We have the experience as entrepreneurs. And we were like, well, if no one's doing this, let's come together and do it, right? So if anyone has any problems, has any issues, like he's a great example, right? He needs the advice on how, like it's good enough us telling him, build a framework, build a business model, but then how is he going to do that? Who is he going to speak to? Inshallah, like that's something we can help him with as well. And any founder that comes to us and needs some guidance, like that's the reason we started this.
It makes a lot of sense. But we know a little bit about Venture Studios, and I'll try my best to articulate it for our audience as well. But you guys keep me honest, right? You tell me because to me, like it's a lot of things, right? It's like a part advisorship, it's like part development studio, part venture fund, and basically it's like this collective, like let's say Avengers, right, or a group that are specialists that are coming together to be like, hey, like we all think we can put our head collective together and give you the contacts and give you a framework that, you stuck here, you can move to the next stage, right? We'll connect you with someone, we'll put you some capital. Everyone kind of has different needs. So like if I'm a founder, what's your ideal like founder that you're looking for? And was that like a decent explanation in terms of what you guys do?
No, 100%. So I'm going to jump into traits, right? I geek out on personality, kind of, looking at archetypes of individuals, the Jungian archetypes, maybe looking beyond the pop psychology, MBTI kind of stuff, what we call the Myers-Briggs. But in essence, what we call it, we kind of talk about this idea of grit, tenacity. So from this idea of adaptability quotient, because I've got a background decade working in kind of incubators and accelerators, right? So what we saw, the founders that had the most adaptability and coachability, they were the ones that really were allowed to pivot, because what it is, they might come up with one idea, but then the market feedback loop that Jaasir was talking about will guide them towards where that market fit really is, that product market fit, to use Andreessen Horowitz kind of terminology there. But then it's that adaptability quotient. On top of that, I layer it. So it's like a bit of a cake, right? You've got that, and then you've got this idea of conscientiousness, this idea of doing the damn work, right? But then also abstraction, this idea of coming up with new ideas, pivoting thinking, and and for us with the Ihsan, like thinking with the Ihsan lens, a lot of that is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the idea of thoughts coming to you in a shower, you waking up, this idea of the theta wave state that people try to break down, the first thing in the morning or when you're in prayer. It's really interesting. Thoughts come to you beyond what ChatGPT or Claude or anybody can tell you, because there's that element of abstraction, and creativity is actually a sustenance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's actually rizq from Allah. So how do we tap into that? Is just to keep our minds open. And look, for me, venture building is actually I look at it as worship as well. Because if you're building and trying to implement perfection in what you're doing, your craft, this is the thing, we've detached worship from our actual work, because if you look at the Ottomans, the Andalusians, all these different kind of civilizations, some of whom are actually, there's some books about them right here, they would actually look at art and look at kind of crafts and look at everything they're doing, the trivium and everything as worship, because all of it is knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what if we reframed venture building as a part of our worship, are part of seeking closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So in terms of traits, you were bang on in terms of explaining the venture studio model, and I thought I'd add, what type of founder we're looking for. In essence, somebody, as Zhagum was talking about, problem centricity, person centricity, able to, maybe be a side hustler as well. We're not necessarily looking for somebody to leave their full 9 to 5 essentially, but if they are in the ability to have runway, what we call, the ability to do that, then that's fine.
That commitment to do like sushi training straight after job, But exactly. It's just that, it's that go-getter attitude. Is like, you're committed, you have the intention, I want to do this. That's the
I think that was a beautiful summary exactly of what we would be looking for. I'd add to one more thing is humility. This is becoming less common in the world. You've got to be able to listen. As soon as you have a conversation with the founder and you give them even the smallest amount of feedback, and it just washes straight over. There's being foolhardy, which is like hard-nosed, and that's good, right? But at the same time, we've got to have the humility to listen, and humility to also learn is missing in a lot of people. I give some of my teams in Pakistan, we've got a lot of teams out there, and I give them the example of my father who lives in Pakistan, and he's in his 70s, and I say to them, he's out learning you. And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, he's on YouTube looking at farm machinery, looking at crops, looking at seeds and like what needs that. He's researching like irrigation methods, and he's like, he can talk. What's the otaku, right? He's a farming otaku, right? Because why though at his age does he need to do any of that, right? But he has the humility enough to go, I don't know everything, and yet so I need to seek knowledge. We're told to read, right? Like, so what does read mean? It means learn, right? Like, we need to actually be doing that. And so some people embody that, and it comes naturally to them. And some people close themselves off at age 19 and say, you know what, actually, I know stuff, right?
I think there's a lot of great things. I mean, I love what you said, because I do hold a firm belief that, within our deen, Allah has made it
honestly so easy for us to practice our deen. I think we sometimes put ourselves in this box, and maybe this is a societal definition of course we should be doing our fard, like salah and all these things, but Allah has made it easy for us, because if you keep tawakkul, if you keep remembrance of Allah in everything you're doing, you're getting blessings from it. So one of the big things for me, like I've been going to the gym almost 13 years now, 6 times a week. And only until recently, I've only missed 2 days in a row consecutively. That's the one rule. I can never miss anything.
And it shows, mashallah. You got the delts popping, bro. Pump ready.
Keep it coming. And you know, and I went to the gym about 3 days ago. I was like, I gotta make it up, because for me it was like weighing down. It's like I felt like I let go of that habit. And it's because for me, it's the one hadith that keeps going in my head is that Allah loves all those deeds, even if it's small, long as it's repeated, right?
Consistent, yeah.
And so I wanted to echo that. One thing that you said, because I think humility and all these things are very, I think it's easy to say, but I think when people hear it as the one who's not getting the feedback, it's also to be like, yeah, just adapt, take it easy, whatever. But I feel like when you're in the hot seat, when you're the one receiving it, how can you, like, what advice would you have someone to be, like, to have more humility? How do you train that muscle? Because some are just naturally, alhamdulillah, born with it. But if that's like a weak area, how would you grow that?
There's one word that comes to mind. It's equanimous, right? And there's a beautiful parallel between our deen and there's my probably favorite hadith ever, right? And also this idea of the lean startup mindset, right? This idea of being like a scientist. That hadith is, and I'll say it in Arabic and I'll explain it. It's like, "Kun fi dunya ka'annaka gharib or abir as-sabil." Be in this world as if you are a stranger or a traveler on the path. This, if you go into it, it's a deep but very simple hadith. It's simply, don't be attached to something so much, right? That's what I take away from it. Be like a stranger. And that's exactly when I went through, classes and talking about lean startup, and I teach innovation at Imperial College in summertime and stuff. We always talk about lean startup is essentially not being so attached to the idea, and not being so a lot of particularly social enterprise founders, that's where I worked for a few years, they're so like tied to the idea, man. It's like, this is my baby, 9 months I've birthed this. But are you willing to kind of, in a way, adapt that baby, or maybe feed it something else, a different formula, and think about, growing that baby in the way that you want, right? Rather than feed it whatever you're thinking is best for it, right? So the idea of the word simply is trying to be equanimous, right? As much as you can. It's like doing what you can, but leaving the best to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Zhagum, I think you had a particular way.
I don't have words like that.
Exactly. You should not have
We got Japanese words. You gotta come up with one.
I'm gonna have to switch to Urdu.
Urdu poetry.
But you've got to be able to learn from anybody, and so that can be younger than you, older than you, richer than you, poorer than you. It shouldn't ever stop you from learning from somebody. You meet someone, like, I used to have this thing of like, and before headphones became too popular, on flights, right? I just used to look left, start a conversation, look right, start a conversation, and see who was more interesting, and then talk to them the whole way, right? And I learned some of my best stuff, right? Yeah, on those journeys, because you're literally thinking, who has Allah put me next to? I didn't choose who He's going to put me with. So maybe there's a lesson for me to learn here. Some of my most life-changing lessons I learned from who was on my left and right in Mina, Hajj, right? And there's some of my most profound lessons. I didn't select them. But it's just those conversations in the middle of the night, during the days of Hajj, complete profound change for me, right? But I wanted to have that conversation, and I wanted to talk, I wanted to explore, and you're open to it. And it can be anybody, right? This is like, for me, I can get on with people a lot younger than me. I have kids like, hitting their 20s, and I have friends who are in their 20s, right? Early 20s. And my kids think it's really funny. They're like, how can you have friends our age, right? Well, because I like them, because I learn from them. They have stuff I just don't even understand, right? How do you keep yourself relevant? How do you keep on moving forward? You're gonna be needing to, have that humility again of, I'm happy to learn from anyone who is willing to teach me just that one thing.
Zhagum, there's one thing that we both of our mutual friends that we both love so much, Ihsan Ali. He's a serial entrepreneur, mashallah. He's a first marketing director at Just Eat, unicorn essentially. So the thing about him is he's so curious, man.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a saying from Rumi, right? Which is, sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment. So forget the facts. And there's a Jim Quick, this guy, he's known as a person with a broken brain. But he teaches how to speed read. He teaches how to learn now, right? So he went full, 180. But he has a framework for learning. It's called the FAST framework. And the F stands for forget. So if I'm coming to a topic, if you're coming to Zhagum for advice, right? Forget what you know. If you're coming to, mashallah, Jaasir for design kind of support, forget all these principles that you learn and come afresh. Right, so that's beautiful.
And I've been friends with Ash, right, since we were like 16, right? So, but he's always had this quality of whenever we see each other, he'll say, either teach me something, or he'll say, what can I improve? And at some points, like now I understand it better, right? But sometimes at some points in our friendship, I was like, dude, every time, every time I see you literally come in with like I'm like a newborn baby, teach me some stuff, right? Teach me some stuff, but now you realize, right? But then you're actually learning because he makes you articulate something, right? So he's like, okay, how when you build rapport with someone, I think you're good at this. How'd you do it? Wow. You don't think about it, you just do it, right? And you're like, okay, what do I do? Okay, I'm interested genuinely in that person. I look them in the eye, I want to talk to them, and they could talk all day. I'm not going to stop them, right? And I'll cancel meetings ahead, right? If someone's really into a conversation. I used to have an assistant, and and she'd be like, right, I'm just going to cancel. She could tell. She'd look through the window. She'd see an animated conversation going on. I'd be like, I'd open the door and I'd be like, hey, I think you might have to get. I already done. Because you could just tell that we're really into. So we just get into a conversation because we're genuinely interested, right, in what someone has to say. Some of them, when I say it's extreme, right? There's people I met for the very first time who we sat down and we spoke for 6 hours nonstop. Wow. And at the end of 6 hours, we said, right, we'll see each other again tomorrow, and then did 5 hours.
Whoa.
And 11 hours of conversation later, my life path might have changed somewhat, but theirs definitely changed a lot, right? Because sometimes it can be just really brutal feedback and honesty. I was doing this with someone recently where I was like, you can kick me out of the office. You can never talk to me again if you don't like what I'm saying. And they were like, no, keep going. And I was like, okay, I'm going to attack something else now. You're not going to like it. I'm trying to temper things, right? I don't want to get, I don't want to get hit, right? I'm going to say something. You might not like it, but I feel you need to hear it, and it works sometimes really well on people who are willing to listen. For them, I have all the time in the world. I'll cancel things. I'll take financial losses. I'll travel. I'll do lots of things. For those people, because you see this genuine interest in them, they're like, I want to know, tell me if I, and you'll pull other people in better than yourself, you'll pull knowledge in for them. You'll champion them because they've shown you this willingness of no, I want to know. And there was we were leaving the event last night. It was really late, right? And I was tired, right? We'd done literally 14 hours a day, 14-hour day on 3 hours sleep. Right, and then this brother, I don't know why, right? You were there, right? And what's it called? And he literally introduced us, and I just thought to myself, I need to say something to him, and I just said to him, he said he wants to build something in finance, and I said, you're the guy, and he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, you're the guy. You're gonna put the flag that the ummah's gonna gather around, and you're gonna have to be brave to do it. And this guy was like, why are you saying that to me? I go, I don't know. What's an idea? What he said before? Yeah. A thought popped in my head. Who put that thought there? What's a thought? Right? Yeah. Allah put a thought in my head. I may be brave enough to just say it. So I said it. I'll see you later. And he goes, he was like, wait, we need to what does it mean? Explain.
He's probably still thinking about it right now.
Yeah. You're a wizard, Harry. You're a wizard.
You just got my marital proposal, but they don't go out as well.
but it's not from me, right? I didn't do anything, right? The thought popped in my head when he told me what he does. The thought popped in my head. I feel Allah put that there. That's what an idea is, right? Like science can't explain consciousness, can't explain thought, right? Like, you know, it doesn't compute. So what is it then? It's like that kind of divine inspiration is popped in. I needed to say it. How else is it going to come? If a message needs to go to this person from Allah, it's not going to be on an LCD screen somewhere, is it? It's like it's going to come through people, right? And so I just did that and left, right? So I hope forgive me if you're watching, but ponder on it.
No, but it's very interesting, right? I mean, I think I've had very similar experiences in terms of like these long form conversations, or like just like either people investing in me or me investing in people just with time, resources. It's super important, right? Because I think as a founder, like I'm a very data driven person, right? And I come with like I think I have the same approach that you do, which is like, hey, if I'm talking to someone, especially if they're an expert in their, you know, respective area or expertise, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna cleanse myself of my biases of what I know and just take it from a fresh set of lens and try to understand their perspective. It's like this concept of like anytime you read a book, right? Like you or you know, I used to read philosophy growing up, and so like the number one rule for reading philosophy when you grow up is you take away all your biases before you start reading from that. From what that author is trying to say, so that you can really put into context why that author is saying what they're saying. And same thing here, right? Like if you know if you're talking to anyone. So I think those types of experiences and those types of sessions are so pivotal in people's lives, right? How do you cultivate that at Venture Studios? Like, is that something that you're actively like how are you? Is it just like how do you like determine like that this person is that skill set or not? Like, what are the tangibles that you're looking for in someone? Because I know we've talked about like, okay, is this person coachable? Is this person like, you know, like, but how can like someone who's a founder, like say, like, I want to be that type of person and be data driven and like, so I don't know if you guys can speak on that a little bit.
I think you can explore that, right, with in terms of personalities, right? You know, Mohammed's got his ways, his dark arts of understanding.
I'll speak to that a little bit. It's really interesting, right? So obviously, you know, controversial figure, particularly what's happening right now in the States, right? But Elon Musk, for all his sins and stuff, he did but he did say something really interesting in terms of ascertaining personalities and traits, grit, tenacity, all these stuff we're talking about. Just ask them, like, tell me about yourself. Literally, very open question. But what you're looking for is challenges that people have been through and how did they overcome them, because in that story lies everything that you need to know in terms of how they persevered, their abstraction and conscientiousness, their adaptability quotient, their emotional, whatever it is, all those quotients are in that story, unlocking that. And also just an open-hearted conversation. That's one element. The other element we can talk about is interesting. We're still unlocking this as a venture studio. I've spoken to another VC called Data Driven VC in Germany, which actually tried to unlock this. And I literally, so there's a wonderful app that you know, vibe coders are now all over called Lovable. And I was with the head of design, Nad, who's wonderful guy, mashallah. So I was there. There's a wonderful person that spoke about this whole model of Jungian archetypes and figuring out people and their micro expressions. I think that's something that requires a lot of understanding, and I don't think we're in a place where we can currently implement that straight away, but there are inklings of things that we can see. And I tell you what's more solid, it's actually something called basira and insight, and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for kind of guidance. So the idea that you know, you can see traits of truth and sincerity in somebody, and you know, tenacity and grit, you can just feel it as well. There's an element of gut feeling there, as well. But
gut feeling and energy, right?
Energy as well,
and the plane of souls, right? Like you know someone that you like the minute you meet them, right? And you haven't spoken yet. We just literally like, look, we all met hundreds of people yesterday, right? And there are people who just literally, as they even approached you, you knew you liked them.
It was a cowboy hat.
It was for sure the
right?
cowboy.
It was a cowboy hat, yeah.
Except for those guys, right? Except for those guys.
You objectified
I feel bad now. But just that feeling you get from certain people is a gift from Allah, right?
Yeah.
I used to get this feedback, right? Like when I started out in business and I used to go into a warehouse to buy goods. The guy introducing me had 0 credit limit with that company and said, this is my friend, he'd like to buy from you. I would walk out with a truck full and nobody would ask me to pay. And I would think, I'll tell my friend, thank you for the introduction. They didn't ask me to pay, so I just took a whole truckload of stuff, right? And he'd be like, what? I've known them for 20 years. They wouldn't give me like, $1 of credit, right? Like, how can you do this, right? I was like, we bonded. We're still friends today. Like literally, what is that? What is that thing? And so I view it as a gift from Allah, that He's put something on your face of honesty, of sincerity. That when, like, for example, when we all met and when we met you guys, like it's an immediate bond. It's like we've been all friends forever, and why does that happen? And often it's really like easier to locate when you're traveling, you're away from your normal environment. So you don't have your suit on for work and you're not like, all in that mindset. So when we're on these like trips, right, we go on a lot of these kind of retreats and things, right, which are like, with the GMW and we all met in Doha last year. And like, so what is that for us is we're a bit free from our daily life and we're like, okay, so who are my brothers? Who are they? You end up just seeing them. Like I met some of the guys yesterday, right? Yeah. And they're the longest hugs. Yeah, how much do I know this person? Actually, really, really know this person, right? I forget the name often, but I want to hug him, right? Like just like that, closely, right? Because I have love for that person. Who put that in my heart, right? And where does that come from? So I feel like there are certain things that are kind of given to you. You can spot in people's personalities. To add to that, like that gut instinct is what about somebody? I view it as that's my signal from Allah that this thing's good or bad.
Can I also want to mention one point particularly on this is the importance of diversity of kind of not diversity of thought, but not mission, right? So there was one example, and I have to call it out. A lot of our kind of meetups and stuff like that, often sisters feel isolated, and I remember seeing 2 sisters sitting down, that are entrepreneurial and mission and driven. So I literally I wouldn't have known anything about them until I went out of my way and said, look, we're a venture studio. We're actually seeking out sisters, that are interested in this. And beyond, obviously, there's a lot of maybe things that we've derived from cultures and other things about, just because somebody's the opposite gender, don't approach them so like this. But I just went up to them and subhanAllah, all the stuff that Zhagum was saying, I saw in these sisters are like, but these are our people, man. And we felt that connection straight away. And they were like, okay, I've been thinking about a side hustle for a long time, and like you guys might be the people that we come to. So that kind of what we call it instant kind of, it comes through conversation, open-heartedness, and that's we want to be the people with our arms open. Whereas this is, I can talk about the venture capital space. I've been in there for a while. It's the most opaque space possible, right? You've got this tech bros element. We want to break all that down. Starting with our community, we want to be the open-hearted people. We want to bring advisors, people. We want to be that collective essentially.
This was another thing actually. At the event as well, which was really nice, is that even though there were people there that might not be good for the studio, that they came up to me and said, how can we help? Like, this is my expertise. Yeah. Like, I want to help people that are looking to kind of get into the space. I think the sisters are actually already messaged this morning and I need to get back to her. The people actively saying, look, my expertise is in finance. I've been doing a fintech business for a while. Obviously, I don't need your studio services, but if anyone comes in and you need some advice, then let us know. And I think there has been a big dynamic change, I think, over the last year or two. I personally got into like the Muslim tech space only a year ago, but something has cultivated. I think October definitely changed a lot of things, but I think it was happening in the background. I think everyone internally was feeling something, right? They're tired of being isolated and they're tired of being by themselves. I think us coming together, these events have been a great excuse where people have the same frustration and they've come together and like, wait, you're also just as like frustrated as I am? Awesome. How can I help?
Is this therapy?
Honestly. But you say that.
Yeah.
But in a weird way, it kind of is been extremely refreshing because, I mean, even for myself, right? 10 years I've been going to events and doing things, and I've never felt like it's been my space, right? If you look where a lot of these space, like places are for business, etc., they're in like hotels, there's sometimes bars, etc., going on. And I was like, I don't really want to be here, right? And I've always wanted to like kind of be like, okay, if it's somewhere else, like, oh, there's an activity place, cool, that's more fun, and it's a bit different. There's not a drinking culture, but there is that thing there, and it's not subconsciously you have to go like subconsciously you're like, I don't really want to be here, but then you have to go for business and you have to kind of go there and put yourself out there. There's nothing's gonna happen, and it's been a really nice change where I can just be myself. Everyone's the same. Like we're all talking about food. There's things in common, and it's so nice having people come together. And I think this like studio, the intention for me is also being that safe space and that hub for people just to come, whether they want to help other people, whether they want to get advice, whether they are just asking questions. They're like, do you know someone? I was like, yep, please speak to this guy. They know. That stuff, just we want to do more of that, inshallah.
Make it inclusive.
Make it inclusive,
It needs to be, you build for the ummah, with the ummah. It's not like our thing. Like you shouldn't feel ownership. So for our venture studio, we don't feel like we own it. We feel like we're responsible to.
We're like the veins. We're just transferring things across, right?
Ultimately, nothing's yours, right? We're all renting, right? We're essentially, don't own anything in this world. Allah makes us custodians over His creation for a short time, and if we're custodians to pass on to, other people in the future generations. So we need to be open enough that like anyone who wants to get involved, how can we plug them in? Make it bigger and better for the purpose that it needs to serve, right? If it doesn't do that, if it's like, and when you talked about safe space, by the way, I need to share this, right? Yesterday, there's this brother, right, with his shoes and socks off, right? Legs folded, right? Sitting on a bench, right? At the event, right? And I walked past him, I just smiled at him. And I said to him, you feel at home, don't you? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, that's the point, right? Of like, and some sisters were saying like, isn't it so nice, right? And I was like, yeah, how like, isn't it nice how no one's trying to shake your hand? And they were like, yeah, you don't know, right? Like, what that is like, right? We're constantly having to be guarded and like here, it's like super comfortable. It felt like home, only for a day, but it felt like home, right? And now that could be a lot of what we could build. We can do a lot, right, in that space.
I really love everything that y'all shared, and I have so many things that I'm like reflecting on. From the one thing that you kind of shared all in commonality is EQ, right? Like we started with data, but we ended with actually start with EQ. And even with like our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the way he found leaders was EQ. Right? There's people who are really talented at things, right? But his ability to actually connect and understand people is really the most important thing. Can you understand people? And when we're talking about helping each other out, and I love that you said renting, because we are renting. Our time here is temporary. It's what are we able to give to the next person as they take the baton forward? Are we giving them a broken ship or a ship that's ready to go even further than I ever did? And I think that's really important because that is what's really going to be how you're honoring Allah, right? How do you love, it's, what is it? It's like loving your brother for the sake of Allah. That's it. That is the credential, and that's all you really need. And I think figuring out ways, people coming up to you, like, how can I help? How can you help? And then like, you can't help me, but I know someone who does need help. We went to an event earlier this week when people were still like kind of trickling in, and we were in a space, and I was like, man, it dawned on me, if I wasn't there, two people wouldn't have been connected. And it was fun because I went and talked to one circle, and I talked to a brother who like works in like cybersecurity and things like that, like pen testing. And I was like, okay, cool, great to meet you, got your LinkedIn. And then I'm like, let me go to the other circle. Went to the other circle, and I started talking to them. And this brother was like, oh, I actually need someone to do pen testing. I was like, no way. I feel like I was like playing goldfish, right? Here's a match. And so like, I was like, oh, you definitely need to go talk to that brother, because that's what he specializes in. Right?
You've been honored to be able to do that. Right? It's like, why did Allah choose you to be the one who connects people together? I always feel really humbled by that. Like, it's like I get to be, and it requires an abundance mindset, because a lot of people will have that inkling of like, but I might lose something. What's in it for me? But for me, that feels really easy, right? And I know just for all of us, right? It's very easy to just go, right, great, I can help you. what an honor. You know, why did Allah allow me to do it? I know I'm nothing and nobody. And yet he allowed me to bring you something. It might be small, might be pen testing. It's but how nice, right? That we get chosen to do that. We must have done something right, or we must be on some. We're loved by our Creator to give us the opportunity. Because some people probably don't get the opportunity their whole life. They may have a lot of wealth, they may have a lot of success in business, but it's literally who have they helped? When I meet businesses, right, like, you know, who tell me, I sometimes sit in meetings where people tell me how great they are and how much success they've had and how much money they have and how many cars they've bought and, you know, how they spend that wealth. And I say to them, I'm not impressed. And they say, why are you on my level? Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? I said, I don't want it. And they're like, what do you mean? That's what everybody wants, right? And I was like, no, well, I don't. And so it's not everyone then, is it? Right? And they're like, I'm like, impress me with who you helped. You tell me that I put this guy into business. I gave this guy, and it can be the smallest thing. You don't have to be wealthy to help and support people. People wait too long for that to occur and say, now I'm going to do something good. That day may never come, right? You may not live that long, or it may not be written for you. If you're not doing your bit now, you're not going to do it then.
Why would Allah trust you with that responsibility if you can't do the small stuff?
You haven't proven yourself, right?
Exactly.
The way you prove yourself is like, I don't have money. Okay, but I have advice to give somebody, so you give it. If somebody asks you for help and it's in your realm to give it, might be a little bit of trouble. Like you have to, sometimes trouble is the smallest thing. I've got to look through all my contacts in my phone to remember who the person was, right?
Yeah.
It's very little effort if you're in the scheme of things. A lot of people won't make that. They'll be like, oh, yeah, you know, and they actually won't do it. And I respect the people that will be like, no, I said to you that I'll help you. You mentioned this thing to me. They remembered. They went out of their way and not just said, oh, here's a number. No, let me introduce you and say, this is one of ours. Make sure you help him.
Zhagum, you were saying something off camera when we were talking, and even what you're saying right now, that reminded me of a quote by Maya Angelou, and it was that you're mentioning how you met an old classmate. It's been 20 years or something, right? But you remember how that hug felt. And I was looking up on my phone, and it's not because I'm really rude. Well, I am partially. But the quote that I looked up and wanted to share is that she said, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think it's sometimes we forget how, and even with the idea thing, right? Sometimes when you're in a position of power, when you think like, oh, I'm really good with ideas, everyone has a dime a dozen, or I'm maybe really good at executing, but other people's aren't. Sometimes we forget how much power you already have, even if your bank account is at zero, right? Are you kind? Are you willing to help someone out? You have time to do something good, even if it's not a monetary addition to it. And I think that for me comes down to feeling. Are you trying to make sure people feel welcomed?
It's beautiful what you're saying. Beautiful what you're saying. You know, because it could be a smile.
Yeah.
And you don't realize the power of your smile, right? You guys were walking around, right, yesterday, right? Big smiles, right? That's like it suddenly makes someone else feel welcome. There's a brother who's new to networking in Birmingham, and he said, I walked into my first event really nervous, and I saw you and you smiled at me. You smiled, I did nothing else, right? I did nothing else. And he said, I thought, oh, I'm in a safe space, right? And this guy's now prolific networker, right? He literally runs that organization that we met at. He now runs it, right? And he's like, but it was his first feeling, right? And I was like, how lucky am I, right? That I just got to go, just like move my mouth, right? And this, inshallah, so, some hasanat written for me for it, and so it just literally can be that, it doesn't take much. It doesn't have to be a lot of, it can be the smallest thing. We do that little bit for someone, kindness, some of my best successes in mentoring are where I did nothing. You're going to hear this a lot from me. Yeah, I did nothing. I put my hand on someone's shoulder and said, I'm with you. And this person went off and did it, and they said, I never had an older brother. I met you, and you said, I'm with you. And I thought, right, I can do anything. And I thought, wow, right, that's how you felt. And he was like, yeah, he said to me, nobody had ever done that before. Just said, I'm with you, and meant it. And I did nothing. He never asked me for anything. I never did anything.
There's one quote I want to share from Instagram and Pinterest, man. But it's essentially, so I recently did a course in coaching. I do top up kind of courses in mentoring and coaching, and the summary is what Zhagum explained. It sounds a bit cheesy, right? But the catharsis doesn't happen in the solution we give others, but the space we give them. That's when you give them that space, this is, I'm here, I'm just with you, right? And that's when kind of, things align. You just give them that space. And that's what, essentially we want to give people space to be able to give them the, one sister from Self Startup, wonderful community, Sister Hafsa, she mentioned the audacity to be able to go bold. And that's what one thing we believe in, think bold. Act boldly, right?
Yeah.
Think deeply.
It's also because I think with us, especially if you're an entrepreneur, right? I kind of bring it back to like the studio now because I'm thinking most people when they're starting something, they don't believe they can do it. They just need a voice or a backing to say, oh, actually, like, doesn't matter what happens, I'm here to help you. And they'll go on and do it themselves, but it's that subconscious thought. It's like, what if I can't? What then do I do? And then you start giving up. But it's like, well, if I can't do it, I'll speak to them. And once you have that, like, that safe space that you kind of acknowledge that actually, if something does go wrong, there's someone I can rely on, then, yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with Allah, right? Like, when you have that subconscious thought of that, actually, I'm not going by myself, I'm with Allah, then your whole mentality then changes, right? And then having a whole brotherhood or sisterhood kind of backing you as well, if it makes you feel like, yeah, you could take on anything on.
One sister, one of the ustadhas, she defined tawakkul as what Jaasir is saying. It's like Allah, inna ma'iya rabbi. Indeed, Allah is with me. Yeah. Like that thought as well. And just like you're saying, subconsciously,
we're taught this, right? Like, sometimes when you have a challenge, you need to go to people who are powerful or they intimidate you. And sometimes I feel like that, right? It's like this imposter syndrome exists for everyone, right? At every age and every stage, right? It exists. And someone said to me, he said, it's not about you. You're going for the cause, the purpose. That's why you're starting this conversation. You're not important. Like, why are you making it about you? Why are you feeling nervous? You don't matter. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm just a vehicle. I just need to go there and deliver this thing. Let's see what happens. If you reject me, you didn't reject me. I just came and I don't matter anyway. So it's okay, right? And so other people, though, need to hear that level of, confidence building needs to happen for them. And look, you don't have all the skills. Not everybody has all the skills. If I can, introduce someone, I did this like last night. One of the people said, "I've been in today. I wanted to come and speak to you," and I could tell he'd mustered up the courage to just come to me, right? Again, Allah blesses us that he felt that he should talk to me, and I said, okay, and so how many people have you talked to today? He said, not many, and I said, why? He said, I was just shy and nervous, and I was like, okay. Look around this entire room. It was that dinner at the end, right? And I said, look around the entire room. You tell me who you want. He said, I would like to speak to this person. I said, done, right? And I just walked over and said, you're going to help this guy now. But pull the person from their arm, right? And like, look, I have that ability and skill, right? Maybe to be able to not maybe offend. Maybe I do offend people, but I'm willing to take the risk, right? What's it called again? It's not about me, right? I'm like, can you help this guy? So that person has this conversation, and then I went off to do something else. And I saw him again. He's finishing that conversation. I said, and what else is a challenge for you? He said, oh, I really I can't speak to sisters. I went to a table of just sisters and said, sisters, he's looking for a co-founder for what he does. This is the thing he does. Who would like to help him? And they all stood up, right? A whole table. And he just went, what? And they said, we're all willing, right, to help you out, right? Tell us what you need. And then he just I said, okay, you need anything else? Right? And he was like, no, stop. Right? I can't do anything. But that's not a favor. It's not like, oh, I'm amazing, right? The point was that he needed the bit that I can do, right? I can probably not do 1% of what he can do, right? But that was the bit he needed from me, so I'll give him my bit.
Go ahead, please.
No, so it's just like everyone's got their own strengths, right? But it's where you're comfortable, kind of applying them, and it is the hardest things. Like you hone what you. It comes back. We're coming full circle here. It's like you got to find those specialists, right? You got to understand what you like and what you do, and you specialize in your thing. But you have to be self-aware that I'm not good at this. I need to find someone that covers the parts that I'm not good at. And that's being a co-founder, but getting supporters, getting the right support. You've got to understand that, because in business as well, most people try finding people that are very like-minded, right? And there might be too much overlap. And especially if you're just looking for a co-founder, there has to be parts which everyone brings to the table. And some, that saying opposites attract. In business, it's sometimes true. You have to be aware of what you can and can't do, and then kind of respect what the strengths and the weaknesses of the other person. And that's, I think, how we kind of also grow. And I think, it is just that if you're aware of what it is that you aren't able to do, then find the person that you know can, or get advice, as you did with the sushi specialist, right? Like, that this is my weakness. How can I go and learn it? How can I get advice from someone? Because if they didn't help you, maybe they would have told you or introduced you to someone else that could have.
I bet they love you, right, in that place, right? In that sushi place, right? I can just tell, right, that they would have that love for you, because you've walked in with this like passion and humility that anyone would want to teach you, right? They would be like, of course, right? You're willing to wash dishes. You're willing to do whatever, right, it takes, right? Because you just are that passionate. If you display that to someone, who would not want to mentor that kind of person, right? Who would not want to help them and become greater than them? I've not met any mentor that doesn't want you to exceed them, right? Because that's the pride in mentorship, right? You're like, you've just surpassed me, right? I've seen this sometimes, like, in my, I'm older than I think a lot of you, right? So, I've seen that journey for some people where you've given some advice and mentorship, you've supported someone, and they've gone way beyond what you ever did. I'm so proud. I'm so proud, right? I'm like, you know what? I had some part in that, right? And then sometimes they'll acknowledge you, right? And they'll be like, this person helped me, this person taught me, this person guided me. And I'm like, can't remember. I'm like, really? I got the wrong guy. Like, is it lucky my name's quite unique? I'm like, they're unlikely to have got it completely wrong, right? And like, but I'm like, but because the profound effect upon them, you can't measure. Somebody can be on a real low. Everyone tells them they're going to fail. They can't do it. You can't make it. It's not going to happen. And then you're that one voice maybe that said, yes, you can. Who said you can't? Have they done it? Right? Don't worry about that. Right? You go ahead. Right? You go and plant your flag. Let people gather around your flag. I was saying this to a startup like a few days ago. Right? I said, your flag isn't clear enough for me. What's the flag? I'm going to tell this flag story, right? It's a bit long, but I'm going to tell it, right? And so, Ash, and what's it called? And we went to Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, right? And I'd been many times before. And so when he arrives, right, he goes like, oh, let's like, yeah. And I was like, I'll show you around. I'm feeling super proud. Like, I've been here so many times. I want him to like, really get a sense of the place. And he said, let's get a tour guide. And I said, forget the tour guide, man. I've been here many times. We don't need a tour guide. And he's like, no, I want a tour guide. He has that thing of like, yeah, I want like, So I said, okay, fine, right? Like, we'll get a tour guide. Yeah. So I'm like, what a waste of money, right? And I'm walking to the Topkapi Palace. And I'm like, come on, man, let's go ahead, right? And the tour guide stopped at a rock, like on the floor with a hole in it. I'm like, there's good things to see here, like this guy just stopped here, right? And the guy said, this is called a flagstone. And this is where the Khalif used to come and put his chair and put the flag of jihad here in the stone. And then everyone came and gave him bay'ah. All his amirs came and gave him bay'ah and took a flag themselves. And they took that flag and went back to wherever they were and put it outside their house. So all their people came and gave them bay'ah. And then they all got ready to go and fight that year's campaign, and all gathered back on that plain over there. And this is where it all used to start. He used to come and put the flag here. And I used to just walk over this stone every time I've been to the palace and think, it mattered nothing to me, right? So two lessons. One, always get a tour guide, right? Definite thing, right? But two, put your flag down. If you don't put that flag down, people don't know where to gather. So if you're not the guy, if you're not the barbecue guy, if you're not the sushi guy, if you're not that person who's going to say like, yeah, this is where I do this thing, right? This is where we get together. We wouldn't know, would we? We would just be like looking around for where my people, And so if you put that flag down and make it very clear, and social media helps us to do this, we can talk about our topic. You could write 10,000 posts on sushi, right? Right. And that's not even his niche, right? That's one aspect of him, right? But look how human being. You need a big box. You need a big box. But you've got to be that person. You've got to be that person, right? Who puts that topic together, and then people know where to collect, right? And then and Allah will send you. I've seen that so many times. Allah then sends you the people that you needed and you couldn't even think of. You didn't know they existed. Like, yesterday at one point, I'd been speaking nonstop for 4 hours and my throat was just gone like, don't talk anymore, right? Like, just please, yeah. And a sister came and I thought, she'd waited to speak to me with the last person. I felt like saying to her, look, sister, can I just take a break and I'll come back? And I thought she waited. It would be wrong. We're called Ihsan Ventures Studio.
The marketing team behind lenses again.
It would be just wrong, right? To not speak to her, right? Straight away. So I spoke to her, and honestly, she was the best person I met, right? The entire event, right? She will open more doors, inshallah, for the ummah, right? Through the work we do, for the role she had, and for what her sincerity behind doing it. And I was like, wow, Allah sent me you, like, wow, right? And I was gonna miss it, right? Because I was tired, right? And this is the thing of like the ihsan level is that you are willing to push hard. And this is hard for us to understand. Like, when we were at Palestine House, right, for the CEOs Collective, Muslim CEOs Collective, right, dinner, and I felt away walking away from that feeling really small, because I think I do a lot. I deny it, but in my heart of hearts, I think, you know what, Zhagum, you do quite a lot, man. It's like, you do try, right? And why? Because I get told by people around me, you do a lot, man. You do a lot. Like, oh, you're doing that as well. Oh, that's quite a lot. You're always busy. You're never available. So I think, I do quite a lot, And I think that we need those people in our ecosystem to re-inspire and re-energize us. And for me, the biggest takeaway of this last few days is like, go back, do more, not less. Not like, oh, I need some days off. Go back, do more. And I think the ihsan level for us then is that our startups need more. They need support, they need help. We're not going to be perfect. Only Allah's perfect. Yeah. We're going to fail, and we're going to let some people down, and we're going to, not be good enough. We know this already. We know but it's a striving, our sincerity here has to be that we will die on this hill. We're willing to die on it. And someone has to put that flag down and say, this is mine. We'll do it. Each of us has the capacity for that. We just 4 of us met, and by Allah's decree again, right? On the first event of the thing, we ended up.
So me and Shabir, I'd met him last year, just before MTF. There was a GMW event, and a friend of mine invited me there, and I met Shabir, and he was working on a very cool project, still is actually, Impact Connect, where he's kind of making a directory for all tech startups. So I started advising him, and we were kind of talking about we need to get more startups and we need to help build the awareness. Everyone's in silos. So we're like, let's go Doha. We literally arrived in that morning, and we signed up to this AI event that was happening. Was it AI or it was an AI event? Yeah. QSTP in the education city in Doha. So we just arrive. And as soon as we just walk in, we just bump into yourself and Mohammed. Literally, just straight up there. And we just got on. Like, it was just a weird thing. Like, we'd known each other for a while. I had someone come, I think it was Afreen, actually. She said that, how long have you known Shabir for? I said, I met him like a couple months ago. Like, literally a couple months before I met you. She's like, I thought you've known him for years. And then when we meet each other, they're like, well, how long have you known them? I said, 7-8 months, maybe 9 months, subhanAllah. They're like, no, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like you've known them for ages.
And again, that's a blessing, right?
Yeah.
Look, it's a blessing, and then there's we just immediately, right? There's the conversation never ends. Like you guys have made a mistake today, calling all of us on a podcast, like because there's events to go to, right? And because the conversation for us never stops.
Yeah.
We literally struggle to hold a meeting, right? Because like we have to like time limit. We could talk forever to each other, and I think for founders also. Really, it's a really good. I mean, and there's good and bad in this, right? But the good of it is, right, you're gonna spend a lifetime doing something. One, enjoy the thing, be interested in it. If it's not sushi, why are you doing it, right? Yeah. But like you got to be into the thing, right? You're willing to do it, right, for a very long period of time. But then the people you're doing it with. You've got to be willing to my co-founder Ilyas in CloudSurge, right? We drove to London, right? What's it called on the first day on Thursday morning, and so we're driving up, right? And then like before I knew it, we were in London, and I was like, oh man, we haven't even finished talking about the first thing, right? Because no, so does that feel like work, right? Never, right? It just doesn't feel like work. So that's how fortunate you can be if you meet the right people, and only Allah will give those people.
Yeah. No, this has been great, and honestly, your story is exactly like almost identical to our conversation. So it's definitely relevant. I do want to pivot a little bit. So I want to learn a little bit about your guys' business model as a venture studio, right? Like what? So you guys claim that you guys will kind of put in like up to 60K. How do you and there's a lot of like questions that I have in terms of like what's the criteria for that? What stages is it pre-seed and things like that. But in terms of like, overall, like, I guess let me backtrack. When you guys are deciding on when to invest in an organization, are most of these companies pre-seeds or seed, or is that like, have you guys defined your investment thesis so far? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And I know you guys have just launched like 2 days ago, so no investments yet. No.
Hot off the press.
Yeah. No. But see. That's so funny. No, but let me put it in context, right? This episode, although we're having it right the day after MTF, we're probably going to be posting this in a couple of weeks, or it might even be a month or two, right? So I want to be, inshallah, yeah. So I want to be able to, an audience that's listening to us that's relevant for you guys. I want them to be able to reach you and find you and know that, hey, I'm the right type of person and the right type of profile. So that's where the question's really coming from.
Let me try and define the first part of this, right? And we do need Shabir here, right? But let me define this part. Is that for most startups, you get hackathons and you get the initial help that would help you just get started. You've kind of committed now, like I'm gonna be doing something, or you've already got a bit of a side hustle and you're kind of already on the journey. This next bit comes along where to get to funding, to get to serious funding, and I'm like not a venture person, right? For me, I'm a bootstrap entrepreneur. For me, I don't know what Series A's are and this kind of stuff, right? It doesn't matter to me. That's not how I think. Think in terms of what's important here. How do I actually get to make this a reality? You can call it what you want. Call it pre-seed and seed and whatever. It doesn't matter. Point is, gonna need funding. To get there, most people just collapse and fail. Run out of energy. They run out of steam here because it's really tough and nobody wants to know you at this point. This part's hard. Either you're, and especially this is from a UK perspective, it's really hard here, right? Like it's there isn't the same ecosystem. So we wanted to build something where we can support you early on in that journey, and not where exactly you are is flexible. But the point is, we're going to take you all the way, which no one else is willing to do. We could see that. We could nobody wants to support that part.
No. I think the way that I'm approaching this, right, is very much like a startup. The definition being, an organization that is understanding, right, and kind of, addressing the market as it is, and live feedback, understanding. So what we're doing at MTF is also understanding where our people are, what stage they're at, what do they need help with. We've said tentatively, kind of, we were talking about pre-seed, we're talking they haven't kind of raised initial funding, or that they've kind of raised a small seed round, essentially. and in terms of, even pre-MVP, pre-kind of prototype, and those who have a rough kind of working prototype, which is, by the way, as we know now, just a kind of, public service announcement, the time and the effort it takes now to go from idea to concept, like kind of, kernel of an idea on a napkin, to actually something that is, you can test it, play it, you can see it in action, has just collapsed so much thanks to these tools like Lovable, Replit, Cursor, Bolt, Cosmic.new just came out a week ago from YC's latest cohort. All of these tools are incredible for us, right? Because we then be like, okay, why haven't you built that? But we can help you if you want. We can help you. We can guide you, Shabir, myself. We can come and sit you down, talk you through these tools. But essentially, we want to be, as Zhagum was saying, flexible. With where we're bringing in these startups, but essentially we want to be able to take them from kind of idea to kind of early traction in order to get product market fit, and then inshallah ta'ala where our support comes in, things like go to market, being able to unlock various markets as well. One interesting thing that we're actually working on is a potential it's a startup that's actually kind of incubated in the UK, but potentially has use cases in the Gulf, essentially.
Yeah, just to add on to that as well, I mean, inshallah, it depends when this comes out, but at the moment, if someone goes on to the website, for example, the way we've set it up is you can apply for our program. So if you've got the concept, you've got the idea, even if you're a little bit further ahead, you can apply to our program, and inshallah, then we'll get back to you. One of the key things that we really want to do is, even if you don't get onto our program, we are making our intention to give you feedback as to why, but also if we see that, you should be introduced to so-and-so, right? Because they might be in that field, or you might need some guidance here. Try to help people and navigate them in. So it really doesn't matter who you are. Like, if you have that idea, if you've got something there that you want to do and you just need support, reach out. Second thing is, if you are in that stage where you've kind of got an MVP, you're further down the line, you've got your deck ready, we have a link on our website where people can submit their deck, and then they can actually get that reviewed for free, right? Because our whole thing is we want to support, the whole conversation is how do we support each other, right? These are some of the pitfalls and areas we've kind of realized that people are struggling with. Third thing we have, there's two more left. Third thing is, we have something for partners. Like, subhanAllah, like yesterday there were so many people coming up as how can I help. We have a link for partnerships, so email us, tell us about like how you can help, what you're interested in helping with, and we will try finding a best fit if something comes up. Again, one of these applications that might not be successful or even are successful, and there's a good mentorship thing there, or just general advice, a specialist that you might need to reach out to. We want to have that network, inshallah, to point people together. And the last thing we're trying to do is create a WhatsApp community. So there's a link on the website for that community, and inshallah we're going to be a bit more active and hopefully have people kind of coming together on that. And we're coming up with an agenda, inshallah, and next couple of weeks we should have something a bit more flushed out, where we have a very intention oriented group where we are helping people in the right way and making sure that we're doing the best we can.
Can I just share something really exciting, right? So and I think it's Zhagum's philosophy of putting your flag down, which is what we've done. And what's happened is, like, the potentiality is crazy, right? So these individuals that, for example, I'm saying, like, I've been on an advisory board for a VC, Muslim VC, and been on an advisory board for another startup. These guys were like, man, you've helped us, and now you're doing this. We're going to unlock this for you. We're going to be coming in. We're going to give you free this. And I'm like, oh my god, like, I'm just literally overwhelmed with how much the ummah, and alhamdulillah, like, our brothers and sisters across the world, from Australia, from New Zealand to here, are like coming in and saying, like, and we wouldn't be like, come, let's do it together. We're not precious. We're not more flags. Yeah. And literally,
But that has a name, right? That has a name. Is barakah, right? And now in the VC space, who's talking about barakah? So now we need to start that process and say, look, we're going to embark on this, and we're going to factor in this intangible that is called barakah, and that those things will come from where we don't expect. People will offer their help. People will come in and say, I can do this bit. I'm a specialist in this. And this was literally happening yesterday. We don't even need to wait for this, right? Like, we already have a huge network. Each of us has a huge network that we won't be hearing no in it. what we spent our lives doing. We've spent our lives building and helping and doing all of these things, so that we don't say no to people. Someone says like, we need help with something, right? We feel privileged to be able to offer that help.
Well,
right?
yeah, no. So let me kind of that's very helpful, right? Because we're really big fans about anything that's open community and supporting, because that's the way. That's at least the way that I was able to like network and get to wherever wherever I am, and I think that's important. That's why that mentor-mentee model is like amazing, right? You learn, like you were mentioning, like how you probably learned a lot from your mentees, and also I'm sure your mentees have learned a lot from you, right? So it's like that continuous model. But in terms of like, so there's like these easier things that can be done that I think everyone in our community is for sure going to do, right? Like, hey, let me connect you to this guy, let me intro you here, and then you get some established credibility that way. But what about the things that are a little bit more intensive, right? Like you guys offer development services. You guys also invest capital into some of these businesses. So like, how do you make some of those decisions? Or how will you make some of those decisions? Because it would be awesome if we had unlimited resources, but just like any startup, you have to really be strategic about how you want to approach it, right? It kind of goes back to it kind of goes back to what you were talking about. Like you can be a branding consultant, but you can't go hit every single restaurant. You have to be specialized in some way and say, hey, this is where I want to focus. So how do you guys make those decisions?
So this is it's a brilliant point, right? Because this is something that we have been racking our brains on as well. And so in terms of the funding and everything else, I had a couple of good conversations last couple of days on this. And the reason we're different, I'm going to be very open here as well, is that like I've had people come and say, well, how do you have funding and where did the funding come from? And I've had people saying, well, if you don't have anything, let's have a chat. I had 2 people even in the event yesterday saying it. And we're at the point where we're currently trying to find the right type of liquidity provider for us and for the fund. And because it's also about the attitude and the intention, right? Of like what we're trying to do is very different. And being totally honest and open is that our intention is running the studio almost at cost. We're covering the base. We are being successful when at seed series A, right? When there's an opportunity to exit. It's very different compared to most other places where they will try gaining profit in the whole studio side of things. And this benefits investors in a weird way, because our intention is to find those entrepreneurs that we know have the obsession, have that passion, have that commitment to be like, we're go-getters, we're gonna do it with or without you, right? We have that, like, we're very blessed to have that experience between all of us as founders to kind of help identify that. We each understand each of our areas. So from branding, UI, UX, to like development, to like the startup ecosystem, to like the product market fit validation for Shabir, that he unfortunately is not with us right now. So collectively, we're putting all that experience together. And we're also trying to find those entrepreneurs that we want to give and we want to work with. Those brothers and sisters that are going to be, that I don't have that support, but that have that drive, they're the ones we're reaching out to. And from an investor's perspective, their intention obviously is to be successful at seed series A. That's the way we're going to survive as well. And so we have that, we're in a unique position in the investor's commitment, the same as our commitment. We're going all in with these guys, right? Whoever comes on board, we have that sincere intention that we want to make them successful. But at the same time, the ones that don't get on, we still want them to succeed, right? So we're going to give our advice and we're going to help them as best as we can to help them succeed. And I think that's what makes us very unique. And in terms of, are these projects going to 10x, 100x? We want them to, right? Because that's what an investor always is looking for, like a successful return on investment and a successful return. We want the same thing, because inshallah, when that happens and when that succeeds, we can grow bigger, we can help more people. Right now we're focusing mainly in the UK, but we want to go abroad. We want to look at international products and projects and brothers and sisters internationally, because there's so much talent. There's so much talent. We have so many people in such good positions. It's just, how can we kind of link all that together?
It's definitely a very interesting model. I think, I think it's like very, it's very unique because it's a combination. It's like part accelerator, like I said before, accelerator, advisor, investor, and development group. And of course, like I'm sure you'll toggle which one someone needs a little bit more or less. But it's to me, it's also like, and I'm not familiar exactly, like I know a little bit more now this week of the UK market, but the entrepreneurial scene and the how the Muslim tech scene is. But to me, it sounds like because there is so much of this gap between like a early pre-go to market / pre-seed to like Series A, it's like if the way I'm mentally seeing after you explained it is like if I'm an investor that's maybe not comfortable putting a lot of capital or needs a little bit more validation, then you kind of are filling that gap today that doesn't exist. Exactly. Right. So like basically if someone's coming and they're to go with the flag analogy, you guys are putting the Ihsan Venture flag on someone where there's really no one that's filling this gap space. That's the way I'm seeing it. Is that, would you?
And to add to that, why us then?
Yeah.
Right. Why are we able to plant that flag? Is each of us has ventures of our own companies, where we live from, that exactly fit together to all of the services they would need, we provide. So when we met and talked about identifying the problem of like, yeah, we all feel this problem, we were like, yeah, but you do the bit that they would need first, and you do the bit that they would need second, and I do the bit you would need third, and Shibri does the bit that they would need fourth, and hold on. And we run those companies already, they're all profitable, we run those already, right? Would we be willing, and we already do it, right? Are we willing to do this, right, for free? Is how I think. Well, we already are, right? Because what happens, you're always helping people out. I have all these teams in Pakistan that are always developing right now. I think I've got maybe 6 teams doing things for free, right? Like what are they up to? They're killing me, paying for it, but but I can't say no sometimes, right? Look, if someone's got a charitable project and they ask me for my help, and I'm like, oh, actually this team's free for a month. Let me just plug that in for you. Go, right? Inshallah, may Allah, reward us for it, right? Like we'll that's enough, right? But we had that already. So now when we form a studio, we have the ability to plug into our knowledge first and foremost. But then when you're in an industry, you know everyone. So if you're in UI, you know all the UI people. We know who's the most, best person, the most value for money, the exact fit for that startup. You really know, not just like, oh yeah, that looks like a good deal. No, you really know, because you're the manufacturer in that sense, right? Like I always struggle to buy furniture because I've been in furniture manufacturing. So if you say to me buy a bed, I'm like, I'm not paying 5,000 for that, right? I know what that costs, right? For me to put together, I know exactly what I need to look for. I will go down to the wood, right, of that they've used to make this product, right? And I know what it costs, and know exactly, you can't pull the wool over my eyes on it. It's very similar for us. Yeah, of course. I can't buy one for myself. But the thing is that you're see, this is the problem with entrepreneurs.
No, for real, it's so hard because your mind's just always like, okay, how can I do it more efficiently?
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention one thing in terms of the on the funding side and the model side as well. So I geek out on venture building models, right? So I've led quite a few venture builders, incubators. So we've got different models, and now with AI, I'm readdressing the whole thing. I've got one curriculum that's 45 exercises that I teach in Imperial, and I've got another one that's 100 exercises, right? So we've got a bespoke model essentially. This is the bespoke, tailored kind of method in terms of launching. There's a wonderful matrix that I've been working on as well, and I can geek out on that. but essentially, we look at the maturity of a proposition, and then we'll build a path accordingly. So on that's on the dev side. On terms of the funding side, what's really interesting is I'm also part of a team at Angel Syndicate, right? So we've got different sources of methodologies of funding. There's a really interesting thing is when you unlock go to market and you build propositions with an idea that you want it to land in a particular home, for example, right? This is where I think venture studio becomes really interesting, because as a venture studio, you're unfair advantage is what we call near perfect informational data compared to a VC, compared to an incubator, compared to any other model that exists. That's why if you go on LinkedIn and type in the venture studio model, you'll find that the ROI usually and the ability to kind of have that near perfect data is unmatched. That's just from a kind of commercialization perspective, right? But in terms of the power of something like an angel syndicate, right? I'm on a team, we're developing kind of an angel syndicate that will sit directly with what we're doing, a partner, right? So the angel syndicate is so powerful. What we're saying is $5,000. We're talking about 5K. Each kind of potential person that has a bit to play with, come to this back Muslim founders, right? And Zhagum is also an angel in this, right? Putting together people with, brothers and sisters who are willing to put $5,000, 5K USD, £5,000. We come together, we're able to unlock the initial tranche of funding for a seed round. And then what we do is we then might connect, or if they've got the tenacity, like go close that round, right? We're the first in, we're the first check in. But then now if you want to scale, you've got that tenacity, we will connect you, but you also got to do some legwork as well. So that kind of validates our entire thesis about this founder and the proposition. If we will help you with your first kind of check, but then you have to go out and do that. So hopefully that makes sense. That's one form of funding is through the angel syndicate. The other one is actually activating go to market and activating a home for them, and that's what the first startup that we're actually working with, even prior to launch, is the go to market element. But now, alhamdulillah, we've got not only an angel syndicate, we're also working with VCs across from Malaysia to here in the UK as well. That's really, really interesting. So the funding element is already, alhamdulillah, we've got partners and we've got go to market expertise that can unlock a huge amounts as well, inshallah ta'ala, from here to the Gulf.
Oh, that helps a lot. That actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, I got one question that just kind of I've been thinking about just learning about the general market as well. So I'm realizing that in the UK, I don't remember who I was talking to, but alhamdulillah, I've been talking to so many brilliant people like yourselves like this whole week. This brother was saying basically that you guys have it lucky in the US, right? Because you have like vibrant, ethos around entrepreneurship, and you have capital, and he's like, that's understood. But what you don't understand is that it's easy for you to scale. And the reason why is because, when we're crossing borders, it's not that difficult to go from Texas to Arizona. And in fact, it is assumed, right? But here, like if you're any European startup, right, or if you're a UK-based startup, the time to go to market, it's so much more difficult once you go out, right? That's X number of regulatory people you have to talk to. That's X number of individuals and people that contact that you to get connected to, because regulation kind of draws finance investment terms. It draws like specific players that have those market burgers. So the ability for any startup to go from one European country to all is very difficult. From what I'm
language barrier as well.
And then language. Oh yeah, that's we all just speak English. No, but like for sure, right? If you're trying to like market your product as well, then there's the language factor as well. So has that been a challenge, or you guys like have that? Or I guess I should ask it like this. Is that something that you anticipate to be a challenge, or is it like you will primarily just focus on UK only businesses? Is that appetite even there to expand to other European kind of customers? What's your guys' thoughts on all of that?
I think the way we think of it is where we're sourcing from. Where we're sourcing from is UK, right? Yeah. At the moment, because we felt the need here first. We are here. We're going to have the most personal impact here now, right? So. But however, yesterday we were meeting people from all over Europe, right, that were visiting, and then of course they would like us to be involved. They would like, to be part of this ecosystem. However, we can't do much immediately, right? So that's the sourcing part, not where you sell, right? As a startup, right? So that then is still open, right? You've got to be able to reach new markets quickly, and you've got to be able to do as much as you can. It isn't a disadvantage. It's not like we've got a easy solution to that.
It's different though, right? Because I've got a service company, branding and UI UX, but I've got clients all around the world, and we're doing tech, right? It's even easier to transfer out. And I think with AI and other new like tools, etc., like language translation and other things, it's becoming easier to go abroad. I mean, you can still have a company registered here. Figma. Where's Figma from? I use that all the time, but it's a US-based company, right? But it's software, so it doesn't really make a difference. It's just if the tool works and there's a demand for it. And I think this is the thing. The type of tech startups we're looking for are startups that like help everybody. There's a gap in that industry. There's a problem in that space. And these people, what we're trying to create is like a solution for that gap. Whether that gap is in the UK or if the same problems are in the US, could be applied wherever that problem is. I don't think that, especially in this globalized world, that's going to be too much of a problem right now. But yeah, right now it's a sourcing problem. Like we can only help people here, but where the products goes is up to product demand.
And to be honest, to get a little bit technical, it's like also that there is right now the funding kind of element that I'm speaking about. I'm talking about. We have particular tax breaks and stuff that we get. We call it seed. SEIS, IES, that is over here. Exactly, it's a wonderful thing in the UK because and in the US as well. And by the way, I've looked into kind of setting up, you know, your classic Delaware LLC and looking into, for example, Adeo Rossi from VC Lab, right? He's worked in the US to really facilitate VCs popping up very, very quickly. So that point that you mentioned about ease of access of capital, the amount of risk capital that is available in the US is definitely the unfair advantage that the US has, right? Not only that, but also the side hustle culture. It's like when you speak to somebody, they might be at a big corporate, but they're like, what do you actually do? Like, but for us, it's like it's enough to be in Deloitte or Accenture, but it's like, okay, that's what you're doing in your day job, but tell me what you're really working on. And one of my ambitions with this, right, and I probably haven't shared this with you both, is to actually, this idea, and I think we're all on the same page. We want to create that culture of entrepreneurship. We want to connect ourselves to our roots and ancestors, because a lot of us have surnames that's indicative of our entrepreneurial history. Chaiwala. right? But no, seriously speaking, so as Zhagum and Jaasir are talking about, it's a sourcing issue, but also there is that funding mechanism that we are establishing and have actually established now in the UK. But that doesn't mean that we can't do the same with through partnerships in the US. And in fact, I'm very adamant that we all go to Aleph and we go visit kind of Habibi Tech in New York, because man, we've got such, Zhagum has been in SF and we came back so inspired, and man, take me with you next time. So no, we see this as a global movement, inshallah ta'ala, but beginning with the UK.
But not necessarily a global movement that we own.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's not the spirit right here. Is and I have that spirit with a lot of our businesses.
Exactly.
Is if someone wants to do what we do, like we have these tech academies in Pakistan where we train people in tech skills. And if someone comes along and says, I would like to do this in another country, we're like, yeah, copy the blueprint, like do it, man. Like it's fine. Abundance here, right? Is we will be collegiate, right? Together, we all work, we all do. And it's not like, I like this expression now, right, that I've been using last few days, right, is that instead of trying to be this umbrella and everybody come under my big umbrella and you can all be part of our ecosystem, we're the soil. Let's be at the bottom. We grow from here.
And can I throw in a particular example here, right? Okay, so without going into too many rabbit holes, right, but the way things are, it's a very hierarchical society we live in, right? It's on your dollar sign, right? It's on your dollar, the pyramid with the eye on top of it. Our model is actually like the Kaaba. It's a distributed, we're all the same, no matter what, it's essentially a cube, man. SubhanAllah. So we're just a part of that cube. Nobody's above one another, SubhanAllah. If anything, the ones who are deemed to be lower, they're going to be in Jannah before us, man. So who's above who, right? SubhanAllah. So yeah, I love the soil. Yeah, I love the soil, but we're a cube. We're not a triangle, man. We're not any of that kind of stuff. Alhamdulillah.
I love the blueprint model that you're talking about. One of the things that reminds me of, at least, in Dallas, we started Dallas Muslim Running Club, right after COVID, and it was extremely successful. It started with like 5 of us, right? And so, because me and then my friend Ariel, we were training for an Ironman at the time, and we're just like, oh, this is, yeah.
Do you guys get this impression that these guys just run between barbecue places?
That's why it takes them 5 hours to get there. You didn't mention mentioned he was driving. He just took his bike.
I'm trying to be humble.
And we were leaving for Jamaat, and then we were like, oh, we're gonna go run. Do you guys want to join? And then 3 others joined, and then we just went for run. And then it became like a weekly thing, of course. And then like Ariel and a few others just started Dallas Muslim Running Club. And our first weekend we had like maybe 10 people, 15 people. Next weekend, and slowly, one of the first rules of running club is in general is that you never. And you never skip it. You never have a missed day to maintain that community, right? And alhamdulillah, it's grown to almost averaging 80 to 100 people every Saturday at 8 a.m., right? And this is from a variety of age group, from people as young as like 9 or 8 years old, or even old as like 70 who are coming in. And now we have like 3 different running groups within the same time zone, right? It's like, all right, group A will leave, group B, group C. And group C is like the slowest paced one, right? But it brought the entire community together. Secondly, what's the biggest issue within the Muslim community in the Western world is our health, right? That was an important area that we wanted to tackle. And it's completely free. It's I don't see my toes, but I mean, other communities, Dallas is such a hub for like the Islamic community that people come in and they experience it and they're like, oh my goodness, I want this in SF. I want this in Cleveland. I want this in New York, and all these places. And, and this is the thing where like, I feel like sometimes we get mistaken with free market and like capitalism, right? Not every hobby that you have has to make money, or doesn't mean you have to monetize it immediately, right? Maybe you just love it. And that's it.
And that's it. And that's okay.
So you want to see it exist, right? When you love something, you want to see it exist. So you procreate, don't recreate.
Exactly.
Right? You don't just, and so a lot of people will, in the Muslim space, this is really common. Mm-hmm. We want to do our own thing. I don't know what it is, right? It's an instinctive thing, right? I do it too, right? Like, I decided that I'm going to volunteer on a homeless project. Mm-hmm. Wallahi, on my first day, I walked in, I thought, I should start my own. Right? I'm going to start my own homeless project. Zhagum's name up in lights, right? Zhagum's homeless project, right? And literally one of the older guys there, he said to me, I mentioned it to him, that I should do one, and he was like, why can't you just support this one? They've got everything in place. They're doing it. Make this thing better, right? Yeah. And I thought, wow, right? Ego kicks in, right? But instead, why don't we do that? We see a Muslim project that's doing really well anywhere in the world, right? Like, why don't we just say, how can I support?
Yeah.
Make this one better. I try to do that with the networking, circles, right? I'm like, you've got a really cool concept for Muslim networking. How can I support you? And they're like, could you run it in your city? Yeah. I don't have to invent it. I don't have to name it. I don't have to promote it. I don't have to do anything. I'm just the host locally, right? I do my bit, outsized impact, right? Without much effort. Hence, like when people say to me, like sometimes, like, how do you do so many different things? Why are you in so? Because I stick to my part of it, right? I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. You made the wheel. Thank you. I'm gonna put it on my car. Right? Or my, I don't know, what do you guys have, 4x4? On my truck, right? With bullhorns and guns.
What you describe actually we have on the roads.
I know.
Yeah. I went to UT Austin and we all get excited in our group chats. They're like, we'll see sometimes cars, they'll put a bull longhorn on it and like a UT, hook 'em sign. They'll keep trucking, but. Yeah. Some stereotypes end up being true.
No, the interesting thing, and I say it to myself, man, is the idea of humility. So circling back around to the idea of like, would you do this if nobody was watching, right? It reminds me of this. SubhanAllah, it moves me sometimes. But some of the greatest scholars that this ummah has ever seen, they started off teaching one person in the whole of Masjid al-Nabawi. And that really gets to me. One of the earliest scholars as well, and it's like this is the one of the greatest scholars ever, right? But he kept teaching because he was doing. It's not between him and the student. It's between him and Allah. What he's doing. How many of us would continue doing what we're doing if we weren't given that name or title? And there's this quote from Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani who said that if you can work from underneath the ground, do so, right? Because fame is a very difficult thing to deal with, man. Yes, so it's like we'd rather the only reason you would as Zhagum mentioned, I can't mention it better than that. The only reason we're vocal is because of the cause. It's not us individually. You know, if we could inspire one person, right, to kind of build something, turn from being a system user to being a system creator, then for me, man, I feel like we've achieved everything.
And I think that sometimes we forget the power of just one, right? And you were mentioning about like putting your hand on someone's back and being like, hey, I'm here to support you, right? Or a hug. You know, Sheikh Mikhail Smith at Kalam at Halaka, he said one thing that really resonated with me, and he was saying that the message of Islam started with a hug, right? In the arms of Khadija Ratwala, right? And that's something we forget. That was just one person. There's billions of Muslims. Started with what? One and a hug. And I think that sometimes we forget so much because the barakah or the factor of like Allah, we forget the factor of Allah, right? The whole world could be against you, but if Allah is with you, game over, you won, you know? And I think that sometimes we forget. I think we sometimes put these limits of the dunya and these other reasons as to why you will fail, but you forget that in your heart, you already have, you know, the win card, which is Allah. And I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves, whether as founders, as parents, as brothers, like all these roles that we already have the advantage. You just have to remember it. And at the end of the day, right, the most important thing in Islam is like Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. The oneness of Allah. One, like, it is very important to ground ourselves to or not get lost in the fog of the dunya, to lose the definitions and principles that we're born with or the things that we're taught, right, within our deen. So I really resonate with like what you said.
I really like this concept of one really strong, right? Like you help that one person, your event was a success. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you measure, like you hold an event and you have these ideas, 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, therefore it will be a success, right? Mm-hmm. But you've set the arbitrary figure for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. It is only arbitrary because that one person whose life you might have changed in a conversation was a better event. Like, you know, sometimes you'll go into an event and you think, right, you know, I see this all the time, right? With like people come in and they're like, right, I need to speak to 100 people today. Yeah. And then all the way through, right? Repeat this pitch to everyone. And I sometimes say, like, I walked in, spoke to one person and left, right? And they were like, you didn't get the most out of it. I goes, how do you know? How do you know, right? I walk into a spirit with a spirit of who does Allah want me to meet today? Mm-hmm. And I walk in and think, oh, I like the look of that brother's face, right? I'm just going to start talking to him, right? Or someone comes up to you, Allah sends them straight to you, right? And you're just like, okay, this was who it was today, right? And you don't know what it was, what the effect of it was, and what the benefit of that thing was, till sometimes years later. And you're like, okay, that's why. The effort of driving there or running there if you're super fit. Well, you know, definitely driving there. Right?
I've never taken my shirt off.
I didn't know this was on offer.
How much do you invest in?
Now I understand why we're in this part of London.
We're in Kelburn, man. These are the ends, man. I'll kill you, bro.
But just find that one person, right, that you need to help, right, and it will be a success as an event. Don't measure and look. I always like the concept of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is the only entity, right, that rewards your effort, not the results. We forget this all the time, right? Like I literally had someone ring me the other day and say, how you doing? I said, I'm all right. And he said, I now have this many investment properties and this much money. We started in business at the same time.
What an odd call.
You, I'm missing the filler words here.
Yeah, it's like an evil villain.
I'm missing the filler words out, right? What have you got?
What have you got?
What have you got? Like, yeah, as in you're not on my level, right? And I feel, you know, and this is, you know, like, I don't know what this is called, right? It's like a bit of a humble brag, but it's like, you know, it's a humble, you know, I don't know what it's called, right? But essentially, is you're saying to the other person, right? Well, I really want good for you. I hope, you know, you should do some different moves so that you have as much as me. And I said, how do you know that I don't have more than you? Because you're measuring your risk by finances. How about I walk into a room and Allah sends me people who have love for me? I walk into a home where there's peace. I have all of these other things, right, that are actually super valuable, right? Somebody comes up to me and just like, wants my advice even, right? Wants my help in something. I'm so humbled by that, right? Because Allah put me somewhere. And, like that guy I was telling the story earlier, right, of that guy, like, why did he pick me? And say, I'm going to muster up the courage to speak to one person. It's going to be him. Why me, right? That all those things are rizq, right? They're all blessings for us. You're telling me to compare my finances to you, bro. That your finances are not from you. They were given to you. Tell me something you did. What's your deeds, right? What's the actual thing you're spending your time and effort doing? Who are you helping? Don't count like this, right? This is not Islam, right? Like, and we try to mix it in with like, no, I'm going to do dua for you. That don't do that dua, please. Don't do it because Allah might take something else away from me and give me this thing, man. I don't want it. I don't want that. Like look how valuable health is, and you touched on health, right? You just say like you have 100 problems until your health goes and you only have one. So I think as a community as well, I think we need to, because I don't know if you guys have the same problem in the US, but we came into this country as we're very working class migrants, and it was a bit different in the US, where people went there a bit more educated, and so we came here to work in factories and mills. Our forefathers did, and so that gave us a lower start in society. What that meant was it was also ingrained that you need to acquire property. Success is having as much property as possible before you die. The biggest landlord in the graveyard, right, is the goal for a whole community. We're now next generations on. We're starting to evolve here and say, hold on, actually that's not important. But it pops up because it's part of our DNA now. We're children of migrants, right? So they essentially are telling us all the time in family conversations, like, how many properties have you got? And if your answer's none, they're like, you're a failure, right? You've completely failed. You haven't achieved anything.
But it's like what Jim Carrey said. Like he said, I wish people had everything they could dream of to realize that wealth isn't anything. It's not worth it. Right? It's not worth it. And Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, person came up to him and said, I've got enough wealth to be a mountain of gold. He said, would you want another? He said, yeah. He said, then you're not rich. You're not rich. You're not rich. SubhanAllah. Yeah.
There's a really fascinating book that I read years ago. It was called The Happiness Hypothesis. And it was this psychologist or sociologist who studied different societies, right? Various socioeconomic groups. And he found that essentially, long story short, money doesn't buy you happiness. And we kind of see this even in, so one of the fraternities I was part of, at least at UT Austin, the non-philanthropy that we did. Yeah. But our focus was suicide prevention. And it's because we were personally impacted by two of our brothers committing suicide. So that's always been something we feel very close with. But in that mission, of course, I learned a lot about depression rates and mental health, all these things. Some of the highest rates of mental health issues is actually in the Western developed world, right? Whereas some of the lowest are actually, from a Western perspective, like, those people don't have this. Wow. They don't have a bed, or they don't have all these things. But they're sometimes the happiest. And oftentimes it comes down to because community is actually one of the largest indicator of longevity and health, right? More than exercising, more than even your diet even. But if you're around with good people and good company, it's really important. But even like our deen kind of teaches that. Try to pray in Jamaat. Friday you have to go. Community is such a big element. Even how you guys are building, it's community centered, right? And I think it's something that we often forget, but it's kind of remarkable because we get so fixated on the outside definition of what success is that you're completely losing yourself. And it's this moving target that, like, I got this car, but now I need to get that car. And a question I have is that sometimes within, the Muslim spaces, like these are good things to hear, right? But I feel like sometimes people use that as a justification to not pursue, economic success, right? How do you, what advice would you have to kind of navigate that mindset? It's like, hey, keep building, but you know, don't get stuck in the sense of like, you know, being, you know, not having wealth and things like that, right?
There's two things here, right? There's one which is our relationship with money, right? If you did come from a working class family or middle class family, you'd always told that like, oh, it's expensive, or there's not enough, right? And we have to earn, we have to save. There wasn't that, there was like a subconscious negative connotation to money, right? It wasn't as free, and we have this mental bias to us. The other thing is as well is that like people forget, like when you look at Sahaba stories, they were very wealthy Sahabas.
Half of the 10 promised Jannah.
Exactly.
Billionaires,
right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the two things I think that people forget is how is it being applied, and what do you do with that, right? Like in our deen, giving charity, giving zakah, that foundation, like even for like if you can't fast, our sins, whatever you do, the charity is such a huge part of it. I think with society and capitalism as well, right? It's hard, right? Because you've got so many different distractions and things around you. One of the biggest things I think is that we kind of have lost kind of like ourselves in the sense that we've desensitized. Thank you. Yeah.
I don't know if I got it right. I'm just saying.
No, it's fine. Desensitized. Let's do it. Yeah. But like even the concept of charity, right? That because that community element has started to, as I said earlier, coming here, parking. If you were living here nearby, I'd think twice about stopping because I wouldn't even know where to stop, where to park, to come and meet you. That community element is kind of going away. Even when giving charity, instead of knowing which brother in your neighborhood is maybe going through something or anything, we're all isolated, right? Charity used to be an in-person thing. You used to understand and know who needs help in your community, in your family even, right? Now we're like, okay, who's the charity online? I want to go give a donation.
That's not the only form of charity, right? Sometimes we've become fixated here on how much money you give. The guy who writes the biggest check didn't give the most. That's not you can give time, you can share resources. If you have businesses and you have resources, right? It can be the simplest thing. You can use your vehicles of your business to help someone with something. You can say to a project, what do you need? You need designers, we can give you that. You need help with development, we can do that. You need office space, we can offer that. You need a studio, use ours. You need a meeting space. If you're like I was saying to someone yesterday, right? Anytime you're in Birmingham, right, and you're just passing by, you just want somewhere to just work from for the day. If you ask me, I'll be offended. Yeah, because that means that you think I might say no. Hence, you're asking. Just turn up and walk in, right? Is how it should be. Why not, right? Because if I've got something, then you've got something, right? And it should be a shared thing. That's not like I'm not giving you charity. That's not like, at the same time, right? But it's shared resources, right? Like it literally should be communal in that sense.
Well, Jaasir mentioned a very important point around our psychology and relationship with money, right? So there's this concept, it's called wara'ul barida, right? Wara'ul barida, it means fake piety, right? This idea of, or literally is cold piety, right? This idea that we're trying to pretend that, brother, and I'll give you an example. Look, sorry to be controversial here, but
This podcast is way less controversial.
Oh no, wait, okay, I'll be controversial, man. So Mahatma Gandhi, with all the incredible work that he's done, I'll give you an example. I'll give you exactly. An example of fake piety is pretending like you're the commoner by booking out an entire train and being like, I'm sitting on a train, right? But essentially, what we're doing is this false sense of piety. Oh, I hate money. Money is the root of all evil. Whereas the scholars, they looked at money as a tool, right? And right now we're in need of that tool, man. We're in need of that tool. We need people to make that money in order to distribute it, because the definition, again, going back to the scholars of Arabic and language, of justice and hikmah, which is wisdom, is mawadi al-ashya, to bring that the things into their rightful position. Mawadi al-ashya fi mawadi'i. And we're bringing it back to the venture studio. What we want to do is bring the right talent to to the right capital, the right resources. This is the tragedy of our society. We have the resources, we have the capital. You've, mashallah, seen entrepreneurs in the US. I've seen crazy $1 billion, $1 trillion families, right? And this is just, it blew my mind. $1 trillion in a bank account in the UAE, right? I mean, the family, they're well known. Man, like, we've got families like this, bro, in our community, and then we've got ridiculous talent, but there's no resources to be seen. Who's doing that hikmah and justice to them? And we want to be a part of that journey, inshallah ta'ala.
Building wealth if it's for a purpose, then it's a great thing, right? Why are you doing it? You know, if it's in pursuit of just luxury, and there's no end to it. You can never have the biggest house, you can never have the best yacht, and you can never, have the most expensive car. It just keeps on moving and moving and moving, and you're just never satisfied. It's like a drug addict needs a bigger and bigger dose all the time, right? Just to feel something. And that's never ending, right? But if it's for purpose, you just enter this beautiful realm of, like, you'd have this really happy life, right? Like, I've seen the people, I've experienced some of it, that, like, you just are able to help the person at the right time. The happiness on their face when you're able to change a situation for them. You pay off, if you've ever paid off somebody's debt, right? You literally, you just walk, and Allah bless you to even be there, right? Is that, and you're just like there saying, I'll handle that. It's done. And the person just, it's like many tons of weight just got lifted from this person. And you see that, and you would want to do that every day. And your dua would be, Allah, give me the resources to be able to do this, right, all the time. But, look, resources are always limited, and so you're always struggling for, you can't help everyone, you can't do anything. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire, right, or a trillionaire, right? Like, even then, it is limited, right? But for a community, for an ummah, it needs to be with this spirit of, imagine if we as an ummah are out to build each other, strengthen each other without restriction. The whole thing is, if you're strong, my community's strong. If you're strong, my community's strong. I'm able to just go, we need to solve this problem. Can you sort it, please? It always reminds me of this. I always share this story of the Glasgow Central Mosque, right, in Scotland. And when they wanted to build it, the business community built it. So the Muslim business community said, we need to build a masjid. So they said, right, the oldest, the grandfather, sat down and said, right, you're giving 100,000, you're giving 100,000, you're giving 50 to the family. Yeah. And they went, because they all had businesses, and they went and built it. That's how we need to be able to do projects, not with a bucket. It's not the right way, right? We need to be active in the market. The way we do this is that we're building companies that have resources and strength. You're strengthening each other constantly. And so that when we want to do something, there's projects that I think I can't name, right, that are being funded by Muslims, right, that is amazing for me to know. I'm like, really? Right? It's we need more of that.
It's infrastructure at the end of the day, right? What we have all the tools, but there's no infrastructure to put it together. There's no plan, there's no strategy. Going back to that initial thing, that's what's missing. And I think we kind of all need to come together and start building this infrastructure, because once it's built, then it kind of just all works together. Then you have an ecosystem, you have a support network, you have community, right? But that infrastructure, it's really, everyone's in a silo, right?
Again, I'm gonna put the controversial. We're
gonna make a tagline.
Controversial guy joins the pod.
Hey, bro, come on, shout me. But there is a community in the UK that are known for essentially paying higher than market rate in order to employ their own people, right? In order to make sure they're purchasing from their own people, they don't mind paying maybe 1.3 times X what is normal, right? With us, unfortunately, it's like little bit, do a little bit of discount. Habibi, I'm your cousin's brother's uncle's. What about the mates rates? We change that philosophy. We have to empower each other through trade, through commerce, through resource sharing, And that's when we're going to change as a community, inshallah.
100%. I mean, I'm like a really big advocate. Anyone who knows me knows I'm super big advocate on just going supporting your friends or your community members. Like, even if it's someone launching a t-shirt shop, I try to go buy a t-shirt, something small, you know. If it's someone who's doing an ice cream, you know, but here's why. Because if in the very beginning stages, that's when it's the hardest. If you're going around and asking for a cost reduction, you're actually doing an inverse effect of what you. And these things are, at least all of us are experienced on the business side. So when you have that volume, and we should have that volume as a Muslim community. If everyone was just to buy one thing from every Muslim business, economies of scales is reached. And then guess what? Cost of production goes lower. And then you have more profit, and then you have more zakat. So there's just like this constant, and actually, like I want to give credit to where I really heard this concept, which was like we have this group called Muslim Professionals in United States, and we went to this event, Naveed and I, and it's one of our friends, Zohaib.
Zohaib Ratu, a little shout out.
Well, yeah, he's going to be on the pod. He's on the podcast for sure. So Zohaib Ratu, so he basically was like very hardcore talking about this concept. So I want to make sure I give that credit. But like this concept is so important, right? Like we have to change our mindset to support each other in whatever way that means. Whether that's monetary, whether that's like, hey, I'm going to connect you.
I was just going to say on this point, right?
The Muslim pound in the UK, very similar.
Yeah.
I want to shout out the Muslim pound as well.
Exactly
the same thing, marketplace.
And further to that, you know, when you said it's not just always monetary, right? Connections. There's another one is, I think, feedback and advice. I've lost friends doing it, but I'm glad I did it.
Giving feedback.
Right, giving the feedback. Look, a friend opens a restaurant. You go into the restaurant and the food's terrible. You're not a friend if you don't tell him. I was once with my family at an invitation of like, you know, it's a soft launch, and I could see 50 problems, right? And I was like, dude, sit down, right? You're running around. You got to fix this. You can't open tomorrow. There are major problems. This guy never spoke to me again.
Can I just dovetail on that quickly? The definition in Arabic, right, of Siddiq, friend, it means the one who's truthful to you. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, Al-mu'min mir'atu mu'min. The believer is a mirror to a believer. So if you've got something in your eye, man, if I don't tell you, I'm not a believer onto you. I'm not your good friend.
It's got to come from that feedback comes from a place of love, right? You want this person to succeed. You love him enough to tell him his faults. If you're not willing to do that, you're just going to be like, yeah, it's great, fantastic. When it closed down, like, you know, a few months later, it was for this. I wanted to prevent that, right? Like, you know, you want to try and. I mean, obviously, it's not in my control, but you're going to do your best, right? And in the same way, look, if I'm doing something in my business and a friend comes in and criticizes it, right, and says you could do it. I have a lot of time for that. I want to listen. Why is he telling me? If he's my friend, he's telling me for my benefit. He doesn't gain anything. It's easier for him to walk in and go, yeah, you're amazing. And I just carry on making the mistakes I'm making. So I think we need to also adopt that, right? It's not just monetary, it's not just connections. Also, it's very honest feedback and advice. We need to have that culture. If we have that, that's how communal success is going to get built.
Just one quick kind of hadith, right, in terms of the importance of what we're talking about here. So there's a narration that Tajir Sadiq al-Amin, the truthful, trustworthy, honorable merchant or trader or entrepreneur, as we like to say, it will be with the righteous, the martyrs on the day of judgment. How could that be, right? You're thinking, man, these guys, they've given their life. But then as, SMBF, mashallah, give them a shout out, mashallah. Brother Osman mentions from his teacher is that the honest traders, they protect us from the inside. They're the lifeblood of our ecosystem society, just as those who protect our borders. Caught that quickly. Reflexes, man. Reflexes, man. So essentially we're as pivotal, potentially if not more, than those who are protecting our borders, essentially.
Yeah, even the habits, right? Like, as Muslims, we should be paying things at market price. If someone is trying to sell you something underneath, we should be actually, it's £5 market price and you're selling it for £4, I should be paying you £5, right?
The Sahaba would actually
bargain up. Yeah.
I gotta tell a story on this now. Okay, so here's a story. I've just sold my wife's business, right? So she said, look, I've run it many years, and I think now I want to do something different. So she's looking for a change. And so I said, okay, I'll make this sale. So the brothers I'm selling it to came in, and they said, what are you looking for? So I valued all the assets and everything, and I said, look, if I gave you a really good deal, it will be this much. And they said, okay, we want to make you an offer, but you may be insulted. Right, so I've asked for 250, right? And they've said, what's it called? You may be insulted at an offer of, I said, just make it. And they said, 150. I said, okay. Right, and they said, what? Like, really? And I was like, yeah, only one thing, right? We owed the suppliers about 30K. So I'll have to pay that out of this 150, right? To make everything, even, which doesn't leave a lot. They said, no, that's fine, we'll pay that, right? And I said, no, hold on. No, you pay half. I will pay half. And they said, oh, you know that we're willing to go higher? And I said, yeah, I'm not willing to take higher. And they were like, why? I said, I'm going to see you all my life, right? I want you to go. He gave me a good deal. We ended up with a good business. And I want to see you thrive and not run out of cash, right, as you run this thing. And that, I think, as a spirit of how we do business with each other, because that extra 20, 30K isn't going to make this difference, right? Like, we sometimes get too fixated on this bit. I won, right? It's not a win. It's like the win is my brother won. You have this one. We fight over paying the bill in a restaurant, right? Yeah. Why do we do that? Why don't we fight over? Right? We should fight over our brother's success, right? Like, let me see if this would be a great fit for him, right? You see a property or something, you think, this would be great for him, right? Let me try and negotiate it on his behalf. And just to add, I want to pivot this a little bit to just this other point, right? Of get people out of trouble sometimes. You've got certain skills sometimes, right? Someone gets into a sticky situation in a contract, in a partnership, in a deal. Our community often suffers from this, right? We don't have any arbitration. And so you should jump in here. And people say, no, don't jump in. It will make you look bad. It will be bad for you in some way. Then you must jump in, right? When you hear things like that. But the shaitan's trying to stop it. Right, so when shaitan's trying to, that's it. Yeah, you got to take him down, man. Right, like what's it called in these situations? You jump in, right, and you go and you solve that problem, because for you it may be really easy. You can see it top down. You're not emotionally involved. You're like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. This is how it can be done. You can convince the both parties. You can sort it out. Great service to provide, right? Like very little cost, right? You just literally turn up and solve a problem for someone. Just like you would in a marriage, right? You would try and get involved, right? But you should in business too. Because if you're in business, you understand it. You're a sheikh in a sense, right? Some people really are a sheikh. but
Sheikh controversy.
And so that would distract them, and then they'd forget why they were fighting in the first place, right? Like they'd be fixated on why is this guy so controversial? But you should do your bit, right? If you can jump in and help solve something.
Well, it's been an awesome discussion. I just want to do a quick time check. I don't know if you guys know, but it's 3:30. Yeah. Like, that's how fun it's been, because I just feel like we've just been flowing, and so that's been awesome. No, thank you guys so much for coming. Yeah. No, it's been beneficial. Yeah, perfect. No, I think it's been incredible. We really appreciate you guys to, allow us to interview you guys, honestly, and hear your story. And inshallah, of course, if there's anything that we can do to help you guys, connect you with anyone that we know or any way, same message.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing in terms of the community point that you mentioned, right? I love this idea that the more something is more scribbly, the more you're willing to draw together, right? So as Zhagum has mentioned, we've put our flag down. This is our thesis right now. But whoever's listening and watching us, look, this is an open invitation to come talk to us. Scribble with us. Bring your ideas. We're all ears, honestly. If anything, the ethos here is open arms, man. As long as it's halal to hug you, we'll hug you. Right? As our brother said, Islam, this deen started with a hug. Yeah. And if anything, that's one of the most beautiful things I've thought about this deen, man. Subhanallah. So yeah, we'll open arms.
We could say ahlan wa sahlan here, right? Yeah. You're at home. and you know, and that's how I feel should be from you know, Muslims in this space. Often we feel like, why are people like so standoffish? Why be so, you know, difficult and hard to approach? Don't be hard to approach. Like, you look, we're at an event, you want to be smiling, approachable, helping, advising. You can't help everyone. There's going to be literally people who are going to be disappointed and be like, you know, they couldn't help us. They didn't fund us. They didn't, you know, get involved with us. Because you won't be able to, right? It's not just a you know, impossibility. But you can still do so with a smile. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes someone can be very rude to you and you smile back, right? And you have to, but what would the Prophet ﷺ do in that situation? Who else are we emulating here? I think this with, like, you know, with road rage, right? I think, like, if the Prophet ﷺ was in our position, would he get out and do some of the things we do on the street, right? And someone looks at you and thinks, oh, Muslim, oh, okay, right? The smallest thing, right? Like, you emulate correctly, right? Emulation is not like, you know, that requires crushing your ego on these kind of things. So look, in this space, there is this image and there's this egos and there's like all of this. We want to try to be the start, I hope, of removing that. If we fail, as your brothers, guide us. You know, but pray for us that we're able to do that, and join us, most importantly, you know, as Mohammed and Jaasir both say, right? You know, join us, right? Like, this isn't owned by us. We're renters. You know, come and squat with us, right? You know, just like, well, put your feet up, right? You know, this is what we want to be able to do. You are at home.
Exactly. And going back to that, one of the early points we said is that how do we get feedback? So if there's any ways you guys know how we can improve, right? Let us know, inshallah, because we also want to be actively listening. And yeah, with a smile.
Gently.
He's a martial artist, so you can come to him.
I did a few classes of jiu-jitsu, BJJ, which is not really, I don't know if it's martial arts.
Karate Kid in your room first?
He's more the wrestler. Okay.
Well, Zhagum, Mohamed, Jaasir, thank you so much from Ihsan Ventures Studios coming here and chatting with us here in London for Muslim Tech Week. We sincerely appreciate it so much, and the time and the knowledge you guys have been able to share with us, but I'm sure all the folks who would be listening as well. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.